Hello, I am here. But we're having some technical difficulties. All right. So I think things got a little borked with the update for Wavelink, but I am here. And we got ourselves a game. And we got bets. I got almost everything set up. There I am. All right. We got a Zerg player. Thankfully, Solar has been playing in a lot of these tournaments, so he is here today. In the bottom left, it is Beyond. In the top right of Sandworm, it is Solar. And it does look like at least StarCraft is appropriately routed through the audio. What is this map? So it's not a ladder map, but they've been doing the... I'm going to guess the TLMC maps, but they've been doing non-ladder maps in the Monday Night Weeklies for almost the full extent of it, I believe. They even swapped out one of the ones that they had already swapped in. Because I guess people didn't like it enough, so... It's changed maps a couple of times. I think there's 3 maps outside of the ladder map pool. Or replacing certain ladder maps of the ladder pool. But I haven't really bothered to pay attention to which one, to be honest. I jump into games and I'm like, oh yeah, it's a slightly different map. But these guys have been playing on it, actually, for the weeklies. And then they might have been playing on it for the TLMC, I'm not sure. But they are going to be a little familiar, as I believe both these guys have been playing in the weeklies for a couple of weeks at this point. Beyond is just a workhorse and does it almost all the time. And then Solar, a little less so, but he was, one of the ones trying to go for Triple Crown. Understandably, it is a very bad time zone for the Korean players, so definitely not judging if they don't want to play this. But they've been signing up more often, actually. So Solar is here, last week and the week before, at the very least, I'm pretty sure. And he has a little extra incentive that Byun does not, which is that both players obviously going to try and win this entire tournament and get the max amount of cash possible. But Solar, as a Zerg player, also has the chance to be the highest ranking Zerg, which he gets an extra $25 bounty, basically, for doing that. So that's a nice little addition, because Zerg players really just don't sign up for these tournaments. What are you going to do about it? Add in a little extra cash for them, and you might get a few nibbles, and that's exactly what's happened. So Solar, I believe, even won last week, right? Very, very close, though. Or no, maybe Hero won? Oh man, who did win? I know he won against Hero once, but then did he win the finals? I don't remember. He was in the finals. That's what I remember versus Hero. Anyway, they're all playing now today. Actually, Hero currently facing Trigger, and I believe they're done, actually. Because Steadfast joined them this series. So I don't know what happened there, but it was lightning quick. We have had a very typical 3cc opener versus a Zerg macro opener, so haven't been missing much, but just in case you need reminding as to how Zerg even does this, how this matchup even works, because you do nothing but watch Protoss and TDPs when you watch the Open Cups. Yeah, we do have speed finished. Certainly not the fastest, but not the slowest either. We do have 3cc from the Terran as well, so Byun going into some macro. This looks like a map that has a short rush distance, but I can't really confirm that. I haven't done the testing for it. But it's only from that natural, or it's actually from the top of the main to the top of the main for the rush distance. And usually what's a lot more important, particularly in this matchup, is going to be like the third versus the third or fourth dynamic, and how abusive certain positions are for the Terran, who are naturally the aggressors, and that's typically how it goes. Even though Solar can be aggressive, he can all lane, he's a well-rounded, competitive player. I mean, I think of him as a defensive macro guy. It is going to be 6 Hellions and a Reaper. So far fighting actually no damage, I believe. Single Ling has died. Single Ling. Liberator not going to have any success in the main base, actually. Surprise. I guess he thought... He actually might have been paying attention, to be honest with you. If he thought he was going to get at least one drone before skedaddling, he was wrong about that, too. That Liberator, almost useless now, actually. They could sneak in, I guess. But yeah, that's very unfortunate. Byun was trying to distract Solar, but not sure it's really working out. Although these Hellions getting on in here, 7 of them, actually. So we're up to 8 total. Like that's 6 now, but they have successfully entered into the main base where the drones are scattering like cockroaches. And they're doing a pretty damn good job of that, to be honest. Liberator comes back in to try and get some of these drones, at the very least, further deny mining. which has actually been very effective. But as far as the drone losses, not so much. You see the Hellions get into the main base relatively unguarded. The Ling amount was not heavy enough, and the Queens obviously are a little bit slow, and you think that a lot more drones are going to go down, but it was mostly the denied mining time. Ditto on the Liberator. Solar, at least somewhat prepared for these circumstances. Was able to consider the emergency options quickly and did it. Because it was an emergency. He did, let those Hellions through, and that is a mistake, but feels like the contingency plans were actually very good. And so Solar, not taking too much damage, hopefully was macroing well beyond that, has the upgrades on the way around the same time as Bjorn's 1-1. Bjorn did sacrifice those Hellions that, could have been involved in the first push, or even stay behind to deal with the third CC, but that's always the gamble you take when you actually rush in like that. And it looked like a golden opportunity. 7 Hellions entering into that main before one of them died. That looks like 10 drone kills at least. Didn't happen. So overall, I'm going to guess Bjorn's not exactly happy about that, but it honestly kind of more depends on whether or not it offset the Zerg tempo, which it has a little bit. Solar was a little late to those Banelings. You don't usually want to have Banelings against just a simple 16 Marine push. The tank was left defensively, trying to really be aggressive here. But it is going to be the safest and easiest way really to clean up any type of poke like that. And the Queens and Lings just were not well positioned, not in the higher numbers they were supposed to be, and even more Banelings are being made as Solar assumes correctly that Bjorn is going to be rallying to this point. Queen does go down right there. And there's Bjorn's reinforcements. So this is a bit of a tricky spot, isn't it, for the Zerg player? Now, they're not in danger immediately from the tanks, but you can see that now the tank on the helping the high ground Marines clears out the creep tumors. It's going to be a death sentence to go down this in just one way. Solar's got to either go for a run by and try and dislodge this push, or try and go for a bit more of a surround. I believe he is setting up, but he might also be trying to wait for the difficult hooks to finish. 13 more seconds to go. In the meantime, Bjorn's going to be able to either reinforce more, get another drop going as well. I mean, this is a sticky position, isn't it? Not enough creep as well. One tank does on siege. So I don't believe Solar noticed that. He's still trying to set up for the surround. Bjorn must be aware that this is going to happen. I think he did catch what could have been either, again, a surround or a run by. And that is now going to collapse in. Try and take care of this. I believe it will be effective. Solar had a lot of time to prepare. Thankfully, again, those tanks and Marines, they weren't hitting anything extremely dangerous, but it was always the fact that there could be the next thing that could be even more dangerous. I mean, if you don't dislodge the Terran from this position and then they come in maxed out and you have this much creep spread, which is basically nothing, yeah, you probably do die, even if you do have some time to get a full surround and the best attempt possible. But cutting it, nipping it in the bud as much as Solar really could does alleviate that pressure, allows him to not only spread that creep again, but also to go for a base. Gonna go the 5th base at the gold. Bjorn gonna go for the 4th at the gold, actually. And things remain pretty even. Solar did manage to clean that up while also going into Hive. He's got everything on the docket right now. Vipers, Adrenal Glands, 2-2, Hydralisand, no doubt going to be going into some Lurkers as well. And he has all of the defenses up. There was the kerfuffle with the Hellions earlier on. It did seem to throw off Solar just the tiniest little bit. But all things considered, really doing a great job defensively. I am still really worried about this position. Even though creep tumors were planted lickety-split, we still need some more time. You want that second layer. You wish they could have, made these scanned to have to go to the middle here. And instead, they get right up close and personal. And once again, clear out that creep spread. Also deny the potential 5th. And also additional hatchery. Just to note that, I'm not sure it'll be a problem. We got both players maxed out, but larva can sometimes end up being a problem when you can't keep up on the hatcheries. There's a macro hatchery. There is 4 bases, so 5 hatcheries. I think it to be okay, but we're also going into potentially more cost-heavy units. So we do have the Hydras getting their upgrades currently. No Lurker Den. I think we're going to see that perhaps eventually, but right now, just a full army trying to take care of Bjorn's push is necessary. Waiting for Lurkers might not even be that great of an idea, even if they did come out. Bjorn, it does lose both the tanks that he had. He has swapped over into Widow Mines. That's something that Solar has to be wary of, chasing this, especially off of creep. Yeah, he's not going to be able to clear out any of those Widow Mines either. I think 1 or 2 might have gone down, but still a lot for Bjorn to pull back into. Bjorn might be losing confidence in his pressure here as the medevac drop in the main was unsuccessful, I suppose. Goes over the Hydras to die. 5th base once again attempted here from Solar. We're getting to that point where maybe a 5th and a 6th, maybe in the corner or something like that, but you would have to hope that basically Bjorn just doesn't check it. Because a simple 8 Marine drop over in that corner could be very difficult for Solar to actually take care of. Now, Bjorn is macroing like a machine behind this, guys. He's got 4 bases, but also 3 extra command centers finishing, so he can get his 5th base and his 6th base, set him up his planetaries, all while committing this pressure to Solar. Solar, desperately needing this 5th base, is going to actually move his defenses over to the right side, where there's some creep spread, but the left side's still woefully missing, and that just means that a full surround is a little less scary. But you know what? Bjorn has left a very odd amount of army. It has no medevacs. It was severely injured from stims and battles, and it just wasn't... Actually didn't make sense, actually. I mean, hindsight 2020, 100%. But that actually was almost a freebie for Solar. And the drop in the main base might not be worth that moment, although it will grab the Lurker Den. It does lose all of the Marines that it dropped out. The medevacs themselves, maybe 2 will survive. Oh, all 3. Boost, he's out. Okay, so 2 will survive. I guess, okay. Well, I don't know about that, man. I don't know. Bjorn was caught being maybe a little too fancy. You know, he used all the medevacs that he had left before reinforcing with more to do that slightly bigger drop into the main, which he's going to do again, but then he also just left such an odd amount of units all by their lonesome in the middle. Now, there's a chance that Solar would never have seen that or would have thought, okay, there's no way that's just going to be a freebie, and he wouldn't have gone after it. But he gone after it. He also defended the main base. The Lurker Den was the biggest loss. And I will say that is still pretty big. I mean, if Solar has the Lurker Den, maybe he's already made 8 Lurkers. Maybe he's already using them to defend some of the alternative pushes that are going on here. And then maybe is sizing up for a push of his own with Lurkers before the ghost count gets really high. But instead, well, he's going to lose his hive, actually. Instead, that triple drop in the main that goes without a secondary attack, actually, is far more effective. And will grab the hive. Solar desperately wants to get some counterattack damage done, but not really capable of doing so. He's missing those power lurkers. And still needs to worry about the drop. And knows that without that hive and the Lurker Den backing him up, if he overcommits here, he would be in even more trouble should he try to escape. This is very committed right now, but it might just work out. The Hydra is surprisingly good DPS, right? They're glass cannons, but they're holding on. They got 3-1 going on right now. The Lings coming through here to try and buffer for them. All the ghosts have died. Tank on the high ground goes down thanks to this Overseer. And it looks like Bjorn is not going to be able to hold against the attack. Now, he does have his drops going on. I think he might have attempted another one in the main, but the one in the bottom right does find that corner base. Solar still has money and an overwhelming supply lead, up by about 10 workers, so most of it is in army, but Bjorn has finally been able to collect all of his forces together, and it is still 3-3 bio. It is 3-3 bio. You don't want to continue committing, especially if you got those Hydras that might not be able to escape, if you're not absolutely sure that this is the moment that you break the Terran. And while it looked like it was getting awfully close, even some production being camped on the front lines, apparently that is not actually what's happening here. Not quite breaking Bjorn. But Solar, perhaps invigorated by that last attempt, is ready to go again. Not going to be waiting for any amount of lurkers, although that Lurker did finish, and he did... Oh, we actually didn't get any upgrades. That's the Frenzy, right? So, man, Frenzy, I gotta say. Oh, the Viper's left behind. Ah, didn't 1A, 2A, 3A backwards. Rookie mistake. Or whatever the hotkeys are for his Vipers. Anyways, that is pretty problematic because, you know, the Hive isn't done yet, although it is finishing. The macro hatchery becoming now the Hive. Single drop into the main base. Medevac being targeted. That might go down. Solar making sure there's also not an attack on the front lines, or rather that his attack is the only attack on the front lines. He is ready to go, but Widow Mines immediately take out like 30 Lings right there. And you don't know how many more behind that. Another one of mine is going to pop off, but Beyond not paying attention initially does start to pull back. He's got Ghost, but that's not necessarily all that helpful against what is now the Ling problem. The Lings are getting surrounds. Wood of Mine's backfiring onto the Terran forces, and the Hydras, now without the protection, just went out in numbers. Ling's flooding through here to help protect those Hydras as they now target the 3rd CC. Once again, Beyond desperately on the back foot, trying to gather up as many units as possible to hold on here. He has almost 1,500 minerals in the bank and can't spend it. It looks like he has managed to not hotkey all of his barracks. It looks like finally he's going to get all that up and running. He did lose a couple of barracks, I believe, in that last defense around his 3rd CC. This time, saved the barracks production, lost the 3rd CC, but he does have extra command centers, guys. He built 3 extra when he was on 4 bases, then did get that 5th, and then turned, I guess, the rest of them into orbital commands. Now, that means that he's not going to have a very protected 6th when he eventually does have to get that. But it's definitely a better situation than it could be. Now, Solar, with all of this aggression, has managed to really breathe back at home. All the drops have also stopped. He finally has his hive. He has his lurkers. He has his options, basically. So he is also able to focus entirely on the front lines. There's really not a lot of thought process going on behind it, although there is a drop once again targeting that corner base. The point is, he can focus a lot on how he's going to tear down this Terran who's desperately trying to turtle. That is really what Bjorn's only hope is here, is that he can turtle and then Solar overcommits at some point. And it'll be far more of an overcommittal if Bjorn can continue keeping the hatchery count down. Does not grab this hatchery, but it's kind of almost dead anyway. I mean, we'll see if he can save it. But Solar also got the base up to the top left. He does have a lot of mining going down. 77 drones still working rather efficiently. Bjorn can't say the same. I think he's down to like basically 2 bases. The gold mineral is going to mine out here. The 5th base, the healthiest base right now. And I don't know how close we are to ever getting a 6th. I don't know about that one. 50 supply difference here. Only 20 in army. Wood of Mine's popping off. Tanks trying to help out. A little bit of a split behind this as well. Is there enough left over after everything on the front lines goes down? Doesn't look like it. Just a handful of bio units. Once again, Ling Hydra ends up doing the trick here. SCV is going down. Expensive factory units going down. Liberator almost falling. Another 21 SCVs as well. And Beyond is forced to tap out. Solar's aggression wins the day. Wins the game at the very least. And I was a little surprised by that. I think Beyond might have also been a little surprised by it. Just the fact that you do get overwhelmed by Ling Hydra. Not necessarily mass Baneling Hydra or Ling Baneling Hydra Lurker. You weren't necessarily caught, you know, out in the middle of the map and it was like a messy base trade. Like, it was kind of a direct engagement, wasn't it? Bio with Wood of Mine against Ling, some Baneling Hydra. And you kind of, I think as a Terran player, there's some confidence and perhaps overconfidence in your bio. Where you're like, nah, I'm fine here. It's Ling Hydra. All the Banelings are gone. Whatever. But actually, they can rip and tear, man. Wrong race, I assume. Make referee, promote to lobby house. There we go. Alright. Getting into the right lobby. Mutas are almost never seen anymore in ZVT, unfortunately. Mutas are, they kind of seemed like they might have been making a comeback after, kind of during / after EWC, but I think that was a blip. Okay. Best of 3 continues. In the bottom right down a game, he is Beyond. In the bottom left of El Dorado, it is Solar. Things really seemed to go to shit when Beyond had about, 30 supply left in the middle with without any escape possibility. And then, 20 plus supply in the medevacs headed to the main. And both of those got cleaned up pretty quickly, in succession, pretty damn efficiently by Solar as well. And that's what really was allowed the opening that was that Ling Hydra attack into the 3rd, into the production. Which, you know, if Solar had been completely non-aggressive after that, for whatever reason, He was not as good as he is. He's too defensive. He's too scared. Beyond had a drop that hit the right time and then actually went on for far too long. Whatever it was, then, you know, that mistake, that double whammy of mistakes might not have, I think, caused the issues that it did, that really did cascade to the rest of the game. But by the time that Beyond actually did get damage, he did get into that main base, and he did find that hive, and the lurker den, I guess, actually was the first thing that went down. That still wasn't... It still apparently didn't make up for what happened, right? Beyond just could not stop the aggressive army of Solar. And Solar, you know, he... I don't know if he thought that was actually going to work himself, honestly. You know, there was some hesitation initially on whether or not he should go up the ramp into the army. Then he does, then he starts winning it. And then, you know, he gets a lurker den. Like, okay, well, I'll still have that option behind me. But he's like, wait a minute, I don't even need this. And if he had waited for lurkers, there were some times where if he got 8 lurkers, it might have been an even faster killing blow. There were other times if he had gotten 8 lurkers, that might have been too long. That might have waited too long. That might have put too much supply into a unit that was actually kind of being countered more so. I mean, ghosts are the counter to lurkers, right? But it's not like it's that easy all the time. There's a lot of outside factors. But when it comes to, I guess, more of a... How to say it? Like a direct engagement versus a messy engagement. You know, it feels like sometimes lurkers can make it a little less messy, actually. Sometimes they make it the messiest. You know, Night Storm on the main base, killing all your production, that's messy. But if they're just going to run across the map with 8 lurkers and try and go up a ramp into 6 awaiting ghosts, rather than have, you know, however many extra hydras, or because you have the hydras you made in lurkers, plus however many you could afford, however many lings, I guess, you should have on the front line, like, that could actually make a battle easier sometimes. Again, if the ghosts are ready to fight and if they're able to get their steady targeting on the lurkers. Whereas that Ling Hydra pressure, you know, there was times where it got really good surrounds. Obviously, you know, you have Beyond trying to just micro away from the Lings the entire time, leaving the Hydra scot-free to go ahead and do the damage. It just made things messy. And that definitely worked in favor of Solar. But that is not necessarily going to happen every single time. Solar has absolutely played a lot of TVZs where he has found the opportunity with Ling, Baneling, Hydra, lurkers not necessary. But that's not always going to be the case. If Beyond hadn't lost that mid-control, which he had for about half of the game, and then he lost it when he went for the triple drop and then left his units in the middle. I mean, if he doesn't lose that mid-control, and there's still a difficulty with getting that gold base up for Solar. The corner bases are very difficult against someone who can drop you. I mean, you might need those lurkers just to hold on. And then it's the game of tug of war at that point. So TLDR, we might see them here today. In this game. The lurkers, that is. So that's going to be Fake Cloak. I was like, what do you get Interference Matrix for in this matchup? You don't. You get it for Fake Cloak because it's cheaper. That is going to successfully fake out Solar, although he might be asking just for being cheeky and friendly today. Unfortunately, I think Cloak is actually in Korean. It's not like Cloaku or something. So, anyway. Whatever they're talking about, that is actually still 2 Banshees, though. So, I think Beyond's done this before. I'd still say it's far more typical that if you're not going to get Cloak, you're only going to get 1 Banshee. If you get Cloak, you get 2 Banshees. But whatever reason, Beyond likes to not get Cloak and still 2 Banshees. I could see some arguments for and against it. But you know what? I was talking about lurkers. We do have roaches on the way, which, you know, eventually they still could get the lurkers. But roaches first and foremost, which also means that Solar could go for a bit of a bust attempt. I don't think that's the plan here necessarily, but once again, Hellions trying to dive in on a seemingly unguarded drone line does not work out. That time the Queens were there, and a lot of them, honestly, would do some damage to the Hellions. The Lings were in short behind, so that's 4 drones yet again. That is 4 drones killed when you were really hoping for more like 10 when you commit all of your Hellions. And even then, 10 might not be enough. So for Beyond, that is quite the disappointment. In fact, that happened, I think, even faster than the last game, which means that there are less defenses back at home. So if you do end up giving out your Hellions, giving them up, then your third CC could be under fire. If you don't have these Banshees to help out, if you don't have, you know, a solid 16 Marines, let's say, to help out, you could be losing your third just to a couple of Lings. Thankfully, the Banshees were there, having revealed themselves, but the Banshee itself was obvious. It was that cloak that was questionable. And again, because Beyond often does not go cloak with the Banshees, Solar could be guessing they don't have cloak. That might be why he brought it up as well in the chat. Looks like he's not going to play too much with fire, though. He does have an Overseer if they had cloak. But considering they just ran away instead of cloaked up right then and there, I think Solar knows. Now the Banshee is going to be a distraction. Some Marines thinking about going after the Creep Tumors. Thinking about it. But it is dangerous to do so. I mean, like, right now, there is an opportunity. I can tell you that because I have God Vision. But as the Terran player actually playing against the Zerg, I mean, it's very risky to go out without those medevacs. He does wait for them. He does clear up 2 lines of creep spread. Actually, a lot going down here. Those Banshees did successfully distract the Queens, which are the first line defense, I guess. But they also do have Lings and Roaches, which I'm not sure if the Roaches were actually seen. Dan does not know about the Roach Warren. Fortunately, this is the type of game where Solar is just macro. So even if he didn't know about the Roaches, there's no imminent attack that would actually hurt him because of that. You know, he might see the Roaches in like 2 minutes and be like, oh shit, okay, Roaches, shit, okay. Water mines are not as good as I want them to be. But it actually looks like with his continued tank production, he might have a... no, he's going over to Water mines. I don't know. He scans them now. And he is going to see that it is Roaches, but he's not going to be able to say too much else. So he knows it's the 4th base. The information here could still mean that it's like a maxed out Roach push on the way. Like right now. But now I think that scan, seeing that it is also Banelings included, and that really is the extent of Solar's army, that's a real confirmation that, hey, they're going into Hive. They're going into late game. And it's hard to tell exactly what Beyond knew exactly when, but I think he had the correct read on this for a while. As if he was terribly scared of a Roach all-in, he probably wouldn't be moving out. But now he's confidently moving out. 3 tanks, well sieged. Baneling still without speed. There they go, finally. But it might already be too late to save this hatchery. Now, Solar can give up this hatchery, as long as he doesn't give up too much else for it. So that's 350 minerals down the drain. But a worthy sacrifice, because behind that hatchery, he is still getting maxed out. He is still getting to an Ultralisk Cavern. Vipers, I believe, are getting juiced up as well. Banelings are being formed, and positioning is being set up. So, basically, 5th base, worth that, as long as you continue living. But triple drop into the main base, not seen until that Overlord. Good response so far from Solar, however. 3 drops are going to still take out the drones, trying to mine out those gold minerals, and then maybe even hit the natural. Beyond trying to hit on 2 different points. He had a good command of the game last game. He did, until he left those units out in the middle. It really seemed like to be the start of the bad times for Beyond. As otherwise, it looked like it was really good. It looked like he was a bit of a bully, even, as Solar was desperately trying to get a 5th base up and trying to get his creep spread out. And we have a similar setup here. That 5th base is a bit questionable. The drop could definitely go for it and kill it before Solar even was able to respond, if Beyond was looking. And Beyond double expanding behind this. I mean, he got his 4th base up, but then also his 5th on location, 6th on the way too. 2-2 is about to finish for our Terran. A little bit later for Solar. He does have his Ultras, but no upgrades on them. In fact, no upgrades on the way at all. There we go. Chitinous plating. Usually gotten as soon as that Ultras Cavern finishes, but might not have had the money. Those Ultras on the front lines without that extra armor just are dangerous, frankly. I mean, yeah, they could survive because they're just beefy units in general, even without their upgrades, and so they provide that frontline defense, which so far, so good. But on the other hand, you know, they go down so much faster that you could just be losing your 2 big fat space cows for almost no reason. You really need a chitinous, but apparently I'm wrong about that. The Ultras do help to break on through. I feel like this is almost a lie, though. Solar, you know, amped up, ready to go, but his chitinous plating still isn't done. The Ultra is now very targetable. So those Lings, when it's with the army, kind of take up all of the action. Maybe the Ultras get close because the Lings sacrifice themselves first. But as soon as those Ultras get on the front lines, only helped by Roach Ravager, I mean, you can snipe that so easily. And now we're getting to literal snipes as well with Ghosts. I was talking with Marine Marauder, but now we're getting to Ghosts. So, yeah, a couple of Space Cows did go down. But for the greater good, they were able to push away the Terran enough that Bjorn, second-guessing his committal, knows that more Ultras could be on the way, knows, X amount of units could be on the way. Not quite sure how much money he was able to bank up for Solar, but probably a lot. Knows that he needs to take these Ultras seriously, and so Solar is going to be able to expand and also attack. Now, it is very risky. The Ghosts are out. The rest of the Ultras aren't here yet either. We do have already Ultras being targeted down. 3 of them are left over. Viper looking for perhaps another parasitic bomb. 1 is on top of the Medivacs, injuring them greatly. We do have a lot of Medivacs, though, and a lot of energy, too. Solar does lose out on the attack to the front. Resources lost, favoring the Terran, but not by a whole lot. That will change even more so into the Terran's favor, most likely as the game goes on. No one has taken a definite lead as we start to split the map a little bit. I will say I find Beyond's position a little more comfortable. Solar, as a Zerg player here, would like to be able to have additional bases, a lot more consistent mining and future-proof mining. And that's not something that he has quite yet. That 5th base is up and running at the very least, but the 6th keeps getting denied. The 7th keeps getting denied just because the drones can't mine this out. And I don't know how likely it is to take this base, although apparently Solar did try. So, yeah, in the game of TVZ late game, we know that Zerg just needs more minerals and gas than the Terran. That's just how it works out. And on some maps, that's easier than others. This map is being quite annoying, I think, for the Zerg player, because the entire bottom of the map is just cut off, and it takes such a dedicated amount of attention from Solar to actually finally get this going. He actually tried. He sent Lings down here, but Lings aren't enough. So, yes, I'll send Banelings, and then maybe he gets distracted while he does that, so then they get out of position. Maybe he desperately needs Banelings on the front line ASAP, so he can't actually deal with this. Just a minor amount of Marines is denying what, otherwise, if Bjorn just forgot about the bottom half of the map, just for whatever reason, was like, I don't care about it. I mean, Solar could have fit in 2 bases, actually. Kind of snuck them in there. But Bjorn is making sure that no base goes without his notice. None on the bottom side, not this one he could kind of get to. This one finally does get going, but Bjorn knows about it. So let's see how he deals with the attack. If he deals with this attack and pushes it back, that hatchery is probably one of the first things going to be taken down. Does look like he will deal with this attack. Nice concave from the Terran. Planetary helping out as well with the mass repair. Even more units coming on the left side. I believe that is the drop F2 to help out in battle. Ravager's not able to escape as well. There's that hatchery gone, like I was talking about. And that's the ebb and flow that does not favor Solar's problem right now. The problem of getting more expansions to future-proof this game. Right now, he has consistent mining, but actually, that's also starting to dwindle. Bases are starting to mine out here. And Terran's taking some pretty good engagements. Ling's trying to get some partial surrounds, but not even super successful in that. So Liberator helping out against the Ultras in particular. It does look like a lot of Marauders were nibbled down. Either 3-3 Lings. No Adrenal Glands is also a mistake, I believe, from Solar. He also doesn't have the Ultra Speed. Oh, he does have that. Okay, my bad. He does have the Ultra upgrades, but no Adrenal Glands. And I think that actually would have directly impacted that last battle, for instance. A lot more units would have died to Adrenal Gland Lings. And as it is, that was a push that didn't get exactly what Bjorn was hoping for. But in the grand scheme of things, as he does scan, I think he's also like, well, in the grand scheme of things, how was that? And as he scans as he's no extra bases, he might be thinking, that's good. That is good. Let me just survive this desperate counterattack. And I think he will. 2 Ultras going down, segmented away from the rest of the army that was busy taking down a planetary, which, usually I'd be like, hey, a planetary gone. Yeah, that's great, right? But I don't know if that's actually true. Bjorn, not only additional command centers, but a plane command center, is able to build another planetary there. And then even if he can't, even if he has to use an orbital, that's not too bad either, considering this is where his rally is going, where his major choke point is of protecting basically all of his bases are protected by defending this choke. So that's not too bad. You know, planetaries are really helpful for all different reasons, including the main battles, but a lot of times you think of them as just the way to protect against run-bys. Speaking of which, the corner base being run by a couple of ultras. The ultras are taking a little bit of a risk doing this, but considering the army is out of place, I think it is a risk worth taking. By risk, I mean that because they are alone, if ghosts were to show up, they all get sniped. Or actually, not even ghosts necessarily. What happens here? 3 ultras used to kill another planetary. Is that worth it in the grand scheme of things? Well, if they can get a 1-2 punch, maybe. But it is a maybe. 22 drones went down. I don't know exactly where. I guess the transfer happened at the gold, and this Liberator killed at least 7 of them, and then where else happened, I don't know. But the SCVs are easy to replace for the Terran, right? Mules will help a lot. The Orbital can replace the Planetary, and while that corner base is now vulnerable to Ling run-bys, that is okay. Solar has spent so much money trying to find real damage, real balancing damage to balance out the situation here. But the ultra losses have been big. 14 ultras have died here. Ling run-by is going to be far more effective, cost-efficient, of course. With adrenal glands, they would be even more. I'm just looking. The red icon. Still don't see it. But they're also a headache, right? So that's why I'm using ultras to get that planetary. It was pretty much guaranteed, but anyway, in some cases, ultras are exactly what you expect them to be, exactly what you think them to be. Big cows that tank on the front line. And other times, I feel like you kind of think of them almost as if like they're a Viper or an Infestor. You know, they're very expensive units that can be fragile in a way. Obviously, in a different way than their armor and health. But that is the game, guys. Solar just could not remax on his army. So that was a while coming. It was about 2 or 3 minutes in the making, that GG. Yeah, ultras, obviously, health-wise, armor-wise, not weak units. But being by themselves kind of makes them weak. Obviously, context matters. If there's only 20 Terran supply left, then 5 ultras win. Duh. But otherwise, you know, using them like that, it's a bit of a Hail Mary. You can definitely say that, and that didn't work out. Unable to take his own bases, unable to really suppress the Terran economy. Things just did not balance out in favor of the Zerg there. And I guess we're remaking the lobby here. Manga Man, thank you very much for that 43 months. Have you ever cast a Warcraft 3? Nope. I've never cast Warcraft 3. I could do some very bare bones commentating of Warcraft. That is, I know all the names. And all what the units are supposed to do, I suppose. Like very technically what their descriptions are. But I don't know anything about the strategy or the pacing even. I ended up being a host again. Beyond keeps pressing the go button when I guess his race isn't actually correct. The watch are good. Today is such a nice day. It's like 72 outside, which is perfect. It's like perfect indoor temperature. Like what is it on Celsius? Like 21 Celsius, I think, is room temperature. It's like that with the sun shining. It's beautiful. All tied up now in a best of 3. We're on Erlholm to try and finish out this series. In the bottom left, it is Beyond. In the top right, it is Solar. Can you really summarize the last 2 games, despite being different on composition for the Zerg and different as the map. I feel like you could still summarize it as Bjorn kept control over the midpoint, kept Solar under his thumb, that is denying a 5th base, really keeping that Zerg player on limited opportunities, and then not making any mistakes on any type of counter attack, right, or macro. And the difference between those two games is it just felt like second one, everything kind of went to plan. Maybe a couple of if I did it again, I wouldn't do it moments for Bjorn, but overall good for him, right? And that first game, Bjorn was in a similarly good position, denying that extra base that would have made the Zerg player feel nice and comfy. But then he did lose control of it. He lost control of the midpoint. Solar was able to expand nicely, creep spread a little bit, but then also think about his own attack opportunities. And Solar did try and get some attack opportunities in that last game, but they were actually more desperate than they were pre-planned, I suppose. I guess there was a desperate attack or two in the first game as well that just ended up being much better because Bjorn had made those mistakes that he did. So Solar's attack into the first game's third base, like that was like, I think, not even guaranteed for him, but it ended up working out really well. And then Bjorn had never recovered. Well, in the last game, Solar's attacks were never actually all that convincing. It may have looked scary, especially when those ultras finally got their chitinous plating, but at no point did I think I was actually scared for Bjorn, knowing his macro was up to par, he had the bases, he had the Sim City, and knowing that his micro was generally going to be good. You know, if I had closed my eyes to the fact that it was Bjorn playing, I guess I would have been scared when Solar was maxed out with like 6 or 7 ultras, was it? But it was almost false pretenses. Like, yeah, the army itself is good right now, but we know that one Zerg army barely ever wins as we get into late game ZVT. They need 2 armies. They need 3. They need 4. They need 5. And the last 7 minutes of that game, I was like, well, there's no way he's going to get up that many armies. And Bjorn knew it too. That was the true win condition. That's why he scanned when there was a little bit of a question mark, when he was like, oh, wait, did I lose so many units? He scanned, and he saw no extra bases and went, okay, no, I'm all right. So how's it going to work out on this map then? I think this map actually might be the most different compared to the last 2 maps. I know El Dorado is a very unique map. Don't deny that. That definitely impacted Solar's chances because he was completely cut off from the bottom 3 bases, let's say. But as far as the meat of the map, the middle portions of the map, I feel like Arrowholm is different from the last 2. The first map that we were on, the Sandworm one, it kind of open space in the middle. You got that open space in the middle with a couple of ledges that Bjorn tried to take advantage of the tanks with, right? But it was kind of like a... Oh, and then there's like the maze in the middle, I guess. But that never actually played a part in that game. But besides from the maze on Sandworm, it kind of felt like open. You're expanding around that situation in a way that the Terran could kind of cut you off and control you. Arrowholm seems like a map where it's a little more complicated. Where exactly does Bjorn siege up to, again, put that Zerg under his thumb? He can siege up on one base and siege one base, 100%. That's always going to be possible in any map in StarCraft. But can he siege up somewhere and really control all avenues? 2 or 3 base, and there are chokes that lead down to the army. Where can he siege up to do that? And it's like you siege up here, you'll be very safe. No one's going through that choke, but you're not hitting anything. You siege up here, again, you're only hitting this base. Maybe if they do think this is the 4th, but I imagine it might be this one. Yeah, it just seems like the innards are different. The innards. Third CC is going down in that triangle position for Bjorn, but even that is a little less of a kind of like push protection as some of the other maps that we have, where you rally and you cover both the natural ramp as well as any third attack points. Not like it's a little more awkward. It's a little more backwards. Hellions, once again, is an opener, by the way, which I gotta say, the Hellions have been actually rather bad. I think on average, we can just say the Hellions have been bad. Not that you would ever stop doing that, of course. That is the bread and butter of TVZ. Even Bjorn, who is more well known for the 2-1-1 than basically anyone else, does a lot of Hellion openers. But these Hellions might be a little bit shyer than the last ones. Despite 2 opportunities looking kind of golden, especially that first game, all the Hellions have gotten 4 drones per game for all of their sacrifices. That's not... Like, after touching the pan a couple of times, I think the 3rd time, Bjorn's going to be like, you know what, that's hot. I'm not going to touch it. And instead, use the Hellions in a way that they're more typically, I guess, used for, which is a little bit of that scouting, of course. You want to see if any roaches are coming through here, lickety-split. A little bit of that crew spread denial, although not really what happens in the pro scene anymore. And protecting yourself from any run-bys, as well as joining in with the army later on. Just the sacrifice of the Hellions have not been worth it. And 6 Hellions can actually impact the rest of the game, as Hellbats, for instance, and the armory is coming down. But I do really need to point out this. The last game, the Roach Warren, it was very quickly obvious that it wasn't a 1-1 Roach all-in for me, with my God vision. And I think Bjorn picked up on it too, through a variety of means and scans. But I will say that as far as I looked at it, there was an opportunity for Bjorn to be just completely smacked by a 1-1 Roach all-in. To me, it looked like Bjorn was unaware. And you know what Solar is doing right now? Solar is going for a very committed Roach attack. No infestation pit, not trying to get to a hive as fast as possible, not getting roaches just to defend and then playing to Ling Baneling. This is Roach Ravager 1-1. Now, Bjorn is getting some aggression here. This aggression is far more important because it is also a scout. But as you can see, Bjorn, he was prepared to face a lot of Ling Baneling. The Hellbats not helpful whatsoever against roaches, are they? This was a complete surprise to our Terran. Best thing you can do in this situation is get the hell out of dodge. Does manage to save the tank and does have 2 Banshees willing to help out here. One severely injured, I guess, never repaired. And so that might be a problem as the Queens do march forward. But at the very least, Bjorn is able to hold on to his army. 2 tanks are going to siege up here. Banshees target firing the Ravagers. This is not a fully maxed out Zerg army, of course. And the Roach Ravager, even being surrounded by the SCVs, the Banshee's able to help out. One of them does finally go down, but the Roaches on the front line are decimated. And the Banshee is even still helping out. Of course, the Queens cannot transfuse off of creep. So usually they would have at least been able to try and target down that Banshee before dying, but not in that case. Bjorn, actually good emergency situation handling right there. That was potentially way worse. Way worse. If he didn't have 2 Banshees, that's already way more questionable. If he didn't save the first tank, way more questionable. If the Roach Ravager didn't get stuck up on a wall, that's also way more questionable. Like, there's like a lot of things that Bjorn did right to save the day at the last second. And Solar's supposed surprise Roach attack that I had a lot of faith in initially, well, now it looks stupid. Now we all point and laugh. As Solar desperately is trying to recover. He's nowhere close to recovering. What's supposed to happen there is the Terran tries to hold on, barely doesn't, has to give up the 3rd CC for a little bit. You know, loses 1 or 2 tanks that they couldn't save. And then the Zerg player either fully commits or they decide to go into a macro game. Well, there's no decision here. Solar's decisions were all made for him. Now he's desperately trying to get something stronger than just basic Roach Ravager, but Bjorn not going to give him the time to do that. Does finally lose all the Banshees, but 3 tanks rallying through the middle of the map with more units as well. And Solar forced to back away entirely to his 3rd and 4th. A 10 army supply lead for the Zerg is not really enough when you're talking about Baya with Medivacs versus Roach Ravager. The Ravagers will do a lot to buy time, though. The Ravagers are all going to be sending on those Corrosive Biles and stopping Bjorn from fully committing. And now we have 4 tanks. And Solar still doesn't have a quite maxed out army. I'd say what's more concerning is just there's not a lot of complications to this army. There's not a lot of Lings backstabbing the tanks right now. We're getting a surround. There's not any Banelings that can sometimes sneak on in and get a really impressive hit. It is Roach Ravager. It is a very much easily sized up army. And Bjorn's goal is to basically keep his army away from the Corrosive Biles and otherwise keep his army together. There's no reason to split. There's no reason to really back away hurriedly behind the tanks as Banelings roll through them, because there are no Banelings. The only thing that Bjorn can do here is maybe be overstimmed, but I don't think that is a problem. I do not. He actually bathed in a couple of Corrosive Biles. A little overconfidence shown there as the tanks were just free-firing away. All the roaches deleted. Ravagers are still alive. There's good retention on the Ravagers, but he needs more than Ravagers. 17 Ravagers will not win up against further reinforcing armies. The tanks might go down, but how many Ravagers just went down right there? 6 of them at least. Now make that 8, actually. More reinforcements, not quite dislodging all of the tanks either. Solar does have 5 bases. Some of the mining going down in the corner, but he just doesn't have an army. It's just what's missing. Now he's actually down to an army supply. He's starting to add in those complicating factors like the Lings, like the Banelings, even a Viper getting involved right now, but I think it is too little too late. Solar, I think his plan was good. I think the idea was good. He showed a macro Roach Ravager last game, which he might have also picked up that Bjorn didn't really scout that. And said, well, this game, I'm going to go for the attack. I'm going to be the aggressor. That's going to change things up. I'm going to do the Roach all-in. That's going to change up from the last game. And you're going to be typical Bjorn and be aggressive, perhaps overly aggressive. And I'm gonna really get you for that. And it didn't happen. Did not happen. It feels like it should have. But in a weird way, Bjorn's aggression worked out for him. You know, a lot of times we'll see the first poke up against a Roach Ravager developing, and the Terran player will be like, oh, that was a mistake. And they'll run as fast as possible backwards. But in this case, while he did have to run backwards, obviously he had to run away from the fight. He saved his tank. He saved most of the units. And so Solar's surprise, well, this wasn't as effective as it was supposed to be. It does look like he's going to clean things up right now as the last tank does go down thanks to the help of a blinding cloud. But what is Solar really working with as the game heads into 4 bases for the Terran? Solar does still have 5, but I mean, that might be no longer true. 5th base is going to go down. Drone's already dead. Solar does have Ultras available now as well, and there aren't any Ghosts in play. So, maybe. There's a maybe. Looks like Bjorn did forget +3 attack, which is kind of a Bjorn special, so there's another thing helping Solar's cause. A good old Infestor Fungal with Baneling, Corrosive Bile, Ultra could change the tides of battle. Hey, Corrosive Bile's even getting a couple of these medevacs. Oh, no! Oh, that would have mine. Oh, so few Banelings left over, so few chances for Solar to bring this game back. Chitinous plating is done for the Ultras, but there's nothing keeping the bio in place as they just run back through this choke into the Widow Mines. Widow Mines not thought of as very effective against Ultras because they're not, but they do ignore armor, so it's, you know, they do damage. You don't want to be running through a minefield. Only 2-2 right now for the Ultras as well. No Hive upgrades really on the way. Oh, Adrenal Glands was prioritized this time. It might not be a bad idea, but it's just nothing's really connecting all together. The Fungals came down, but not when the rest of the army was ready to connect. The Lings, as Cracklings, desperately wanting to nibble on the bio, really died before they got an opportunity. The thing is, though, is that if there is a surround, even a partial one that the Lings get into the nooks of the bio army and starts to spread the Marauders out, like on the Eldorado game. Now with Adrenal Glands, there's a really good chance those Marauders end up dying rather than barely surviving. But we're having an even more difficult time of getting a partial surround in this game, although these Corrosive Biles are... I think the amount of Corrosive Biles that have hit unnecessarily is pretty high this game. Bjorn has already taken down Solar's very much needed 5th base and is now eyeing what was the original 3rd, I believe. This is a very stemmed up army, however, so it's not going to be able to commit, but with the distraction, the rest of the army heads over to the other new 5th. We'll be able to grab that easily. Infestor at least survives. Solar hanging on by his fingernails right now. I mean, this is way closer than I thought it was going to be. Probably Bjorn thinking the same thing, like, well, I really think I feel like I should have been able to kill you, but okay, fair enough. Big contributing factor to that was just the medevac energy and the bio army getting very, very low. Certainly impacted some of those final tank battle moments, and now he doesn't have any tanks. Infestor does get a pretty nice fungal on the Medivacs, but doesn't really combine it with the Parasitic Bomb. Nonetheless, the rest of the army collapsing in, trying to take advantage of this moment, hoping that more damage can be found before Solar starts to be chased down. Unfortunately, now the chase is going the other way, and that's when the Zerg starts to bleed out a lot of units. The Marauders are very low. The Banelings might actually be getting some killing blows right here, but there's more reinforcements, more Widow Mines as well. The Infestor gathering energy, waiting for that perfect fungal. Solar still hanging on to the supply, despite being thrown back down to his original 4 bases, which are starting to mine out. He is holding on to his supply, managing to even fit in a +3 melee right there. Beyond's trying to get this 5th base up and running. Does not have those extra command centers like the previous 2 games, so there's not as much future-proofing going on right now. Oh, there's the fungal from behind! Beautiful from Solar! I said it unironically. The 2 Ultras still go down. Plenty of Marauders in the red getting healed back up. Those were very much the Marauders that needed to straight up die. There was like 5 Marauders that went into the red and they did not die. More Infestors are on the way. It's really the only thing keeping Solar alive. Viper helping out as well. This 5th base is the do or die moment. It is the last stand here for Solar as he has dip down in supply. Medivacs are almost out of juice, but I feel like the firepower of now the officially 3-3 Terran is just too much. The Zerg army cannot connect with the now overwhelming amount of bio, and we're going to see that supply of the Zerg just drop. It's plummeting. It's game over. It's donezo. Beyond with the 2-1 victory. Does not get shocked by that roach all in. I think the strategy was good, but maybe the execution wasn't. That is Solar heading down to the lower brackets, and Bjorn will continue on to face... Oh, wow. Okay, well, first of all, he's going to face Clem. Second of all, Trigger actually won versus Hero 2-0. Showtime also won versus Max Pax 2-1, so... a bit of a different top 4. And since it is going to be EU versus Korea, we're going to head over to NA. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone who cares about it. I only really remember because, 1, people were wearing green at the grocery store today, and 2, I had to go to the grocery store to make my mom happy. She wanted a classic Irish dinner, so we had to go buy corned beef and cabbage. And now I can smell it. It's very overpowering. It's not unpleasant, though. Well, not that unpleasant. Whoa. Suddenly everyone is on NA. What the hell? Are there any holidays you enjoy? I mean, I don't know. Never really thought about enjoying or not enjoying holidays. I think I enjoy all the holidays. I mean, St. Patrick's Day I've always thought was kind of a stupid one. Not because of celebrating Irish ancestry, but because of the whole pinching thing. I think that's pretty dumb. But otherwise, I like St. Patrick's Day. Christmas and Thanksgiving. Hell, I make Thanksgiving dinner. If you don't enjoy it, shouldn't be making the dinner. Making Guinness stew. Ooh. My mom desperately wants to go back to Ireland to have proper Guinness. She's not a beer drinker at all, but she loved Guinness in Ireland. And I will say, is quite good in Ireland. It's better than it is everywhere else. Hey, Zigpig. Cat butt. Wow, Trigger 2-0 showtime. Damn, Trigger's on a roll. Only pause. Yeah, Wicket. Rock, paper, scissors in the game. Clem's silly. He's funny. Clem won the rock, paper, scissors. Björn says, you know, man. Rude. I guess there's a chance that Clem plays Protoss, yeah. Good guy, Steadfast, actually lobby linking. Sometimes the players forget. Alright. Kitty butt time's over. Okay, that'll be good enough. Alright, we got ourselves a fresh best of 3. Nope, cat didn't want to stay. That's fine. Just did all that effort for nothing. He's gonna go play with Wicket. They're being cute. It's a breast. Wow. Yep, it's a breast. It's a best of 3. And it is going to be a TVP. In the bottom right, playing Protoss, he is Clem. And in the top left, playing Terran, it is Bjorn. No TVTs for you. Clem did play versus Spirit earlier, and I guess played Protoss. I didn't think about it. I think I actually opened the series, then didn't think about looking for the races. But he won that, so, you know, however that went is a good sign. If he did play Protoss, that is, his Protoss is actually still pretty good. It has already mostly proven itself, really, I think. Most people agree that it is... I don't want to put this. Yeah. Okay. That his Protoss is up to snuff, that he is capable of taking on any of the pro gamers that he used to face as a Terran. I would always hold reservations until an offline tournament, since we're not really getting any offline tournaments. Then I don't really know what to say, but it does seem like Clem is very comfortable playing Protoss, and usually facing your original race is pretty good for you. But I think that there's like, yeah, facing Terran, you kind of know what bothers Terran more, you know the habits of the Terran more. I will say, whenever you off race, even if your off race is really, 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 really good, and it is for Clem, there is almost always things that show it is an off race. It sounds counterintuitive. He plays Protoss at like 6,000 MMR. He's got to be freaking good. But, you know, at Home Story Cup, we just saw so many Colossus die. There's like one instance where it's just like, there's no way a main Protoss would have ever done that. Seriously. And the other thing is, like, when it comes to your off race, typically your versus cheese isn't as good. I think just in general, not having as many reps impacts you the hardest in the early game when you don't know what's happening. I think that makes sense. So even though Clem has probably thousands of reps as Protoss at this point, this guy plays a lot of StarCraft, he might still be a little vulnerable to something like a proxy barracks. One which, again, he has yet to actually scout. So he thinks it's going to 1cc, expands, and he's going to find out, okay, it's not expansion, oh shit! What else is it? And then the Marauder's going to show up, and he's going to go, oh, bother. Or zoot zoot. He doesn't do any extreme cursing. But this is pretty bad. To be fair, and I talked about why Clem would be a little weaker against this. I think a lot of Protoss have trouble against an unscouted 2 barracks, 1 proxy, so there is that. Oh, the bunker is denied, however, and that is first things first. You gotta deny that bunker from actually finishing. Backup pylon has been made, although I'm not sure how long that will actually stay up and running. It does at least make sure that there's no supply block where I think the Oracle might have been. No, it wouldn't have actually, but still, like, it's better to have it, and he does already go to replacing it. Because he will be supply blocked soon if he's not careful. The Oracle comes out to help. Obviously, Marauders cannot shoot up, despite my plea a decade ago. But the Oracle also does not have infinite energy. It kind of does, though, now, I guess, with energy recharge. So that makes it a better response to the Marauder proxy than it used to be, for sure. So the shield battery overcharge does not exist. That would not have helped in this game. There's no way to get the shield battery up and running. But an Oracle, that is actually very good. The amount of Marines here are not high enough to actually kill an Oracle, technically. If it's full health, you need 4 Marines to kill it. And Beyond has got to respect the Oracle. Good on Clem to go for a Stargate, by the way. That is a huge difference maker in this game. I'm not sure that Clem holds, certainly this way, maybe with more damage, if he had gone for a Twilight Council. Twilight Council just doesn't help you. Just literally can't produce anything. It could be eventually give you Blink, I suppose, if you had started it before the attack, right? But are you alive to even use that Blink? Whereas the Oracle, even if it was the old Oracle that would have run out of energy without the energy recharge, so old Nexus, shall we say, it's better than nothing. So that is one thing that was kind of probably not what Bjorn was hoping for, right? As far as the harder counters to Clem's opener, he was hoping there was a Twilight Council. And now it's 2 Oracles that do need a response, as again, the amount of Marines wasn't really convincing. He had 1 barracks with a reactor, that's okay, but the other barracks had to fly home. 3rd barracks wasn't done. And if you're going to continue building Oracles, which, you know, I don't see Clem as a guy who goes for Oracles, but Hero probably would. And that's probably what Bjorn is even remembering as he slaps down these 2 missile turrets. He's like, oh my god, what if the Oracles kill me? I had this happen versus Hero. That fucking sucked. And so he plays it safe. And technically now he has enough Marines to divvy up between the 2 bases, but the missile turret's kind of necessary, but unfortunately necessary. In the top-tier world of professional StarCraft 2, actually affording 200 minerals that quickly after you've already denied your expansion for X amount of time, it's actually quite a pretty penny. It's a less than ideal situation for Bjorn. He caused some havoc at the front of the base. He did kill some probes, 8 of them actually in total. That's probably just enough to kind of give us a normal game, I guess. I don't have a cutoff in my head for what a proxy barracks has to do damage-wise, but I think that's kind of close to evening things out. And now we just pay attention to the rest of the game. And I guess the easiest way to determine this is if whether or not Bjorn is down by 8 workers. Now that he has 2 mules, we know that's the numbers we're looking at between the 2 races. And he's just about... So, yeah. Yeah. Could have been worse for Bjorn, could have been way better for Bjorn. As it is, where it's like a normal TVP, kind of. We got Clem going into a little abnormal TVP, just because it's not the most common thing in the world, but I do like seeing it again. We got ourselves fast charge into +1 armor, into the Templar Archives. We're going to actually get the Storm. It's always existed, never gone completely out of the way, just less than a bunch of the other things that Protoss do. And Bjorn does not actually know about this intention. Bjorn has gotten no scouting since that's Proxy Racks. Oh, Zoot, no way she knows that. I took French in high school. Thank you very much. And the one curse word that was allowed to be taught to us was zoot, zoot, et zoot. We weren't allowed to learn the much worse curse words in French, but I did eventually learn them because I hung out with the O Gaming crew. Both Oracles die. That is very unlucky for Clem. They would have been extremely useful. Stasis traps are still extremely useful. Revelations, knowing where the army is going, still extremely useful. That's very unfortunate. And we got a drop in the main base that I didn't see, and neither did Clem, which is way more unfortunate for our Frenchie. Oh no, that's one hell of an Artosis pylon. That is the biggest one I've seen in a while. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 buildings. 6 of which were being used. That is a crazy Artosis pylon. The upgrade should still be on the way. Blink should still actually be finishing, and gateways do need to be active at this point, as Bjorn does have 2 armies. So it's. I think we're at a point where Clem has enough army that he's okay defensively, but that would have been the one. That would have been the 30 seconds I would have been concerned for sure, And we still have a 20 supply difference, so it's still a little concerning. But at least now all the gateways are up and running. Armor is done for Clem, but attack is done for Bjorn. And Clem cannot get the connections he's looking for with those Archons. The Zealots actually need to be just a bit higher in number. Marauders on the front line taking a lot of those shots. Not killing the Zealots particularly fast, but slowing them down. They do have Marauder slow. All the upgrades done for Bjorn. He is only on 2 bases, and he is going to pull the boys. That's why he's got so much shit. And he's about to have way more, and he's going to try and take advantage of the lack of Storm. I said he was going Storm. I was completely wrong about that, and that is a really important difference. A Storm build, well, it could have already died, to be fair. To be fair, Storm doesn't give you a lot of units. But what it does give you is a lot of splash. And SCV pulls are going to do nothing but try to kill you. And if you had a Storm, you would hit literally everything. When you don't have Storm, you had a couple of crappy Archons. I will say those SCVs just melted. I almost doubt they existed, but the rest of the Protoss army might not be up to snuff against the Terran. Right now, half the army supply for Clem. I think this is going to work out. Beyond 2 basing it, SCV pool. Might not have even been necessary to win this game, but does make it a lot easier. All the Zealots are gone. The Archons with the T-Rex arms aren't going to get any particularly good shots. Even the upgrade's going to be still the same. Clem was desperately hoping +1 was going to save him. It will not. And that is going to be game. GG. Bjorn does take game 1. Really can't blame the proxy racks for that, though, right? It was definitely an opener that was a little more ambiguous in its efficiency, I guess, efficacy. But I would say generally, well, it really is difficult to say, because while that 8-worker difference is typically the place you can ground yourself and be like, well, this is what you're supposed to look like in the macro game, it's obviously very different. Because the offsetting of the economy can really impact certain things differently, right? I mean, typically I would say that when you go for a mostly gateway-based army, which is exactly what Clem was doing, Archons come from the gateways, you really want that supercharged economy. You want to have those 3 bases saturated ASAP, and then you're going to just start spitting out Zealots. Whereas if you do take economic damage and you don't get as fast of a 3rd Nexus, Colossus can be a little bit safer. They're slower, but they're safer. But then I think the SEV pool is always a good idea against what Clem was doing. Regardless of the economic situations and how they got to the points that they did, I do think that an SEV pool is almost always good. But it looks like Clem was having trouble before the SEV pool. And either that is because of the opening and the loss of the probes and the disruption to his build, or it is because it isn't actually his main race, and he did lose those gateways to the pylon snipe. And, 4 additional Zealots at the very first fight could actually make a difference. It's kind of like nipping it in the bud, then you get like a better surround the next time. And then Clem also did lose 2 Oracles that might have been able to scout that, hey, this guy's still on 2 bases, I should really play defensive, because I think we saw very few shield batteries in preparation for the attack. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. But at the end of the day, Bjorn does win. And so we go into game 2 on Kill Switch. This is new for me. On the right side, it is Clem. On the left side, it is Bjorn. I demand a return of my cat coins. I thought Clem was going to play Terran. No take-backsies. No refunds.
Thank you for becoming a
There's still a chance that I'll win, though. I mean, he's won against Bjorn's Protoss before. I am pretty sure I've heard that. Pretty sure about that. JTN! Hey, thank you very much for that gifted sub. Thanks for supporting the channel. Oh, boy. Fun game, fun game. It's a fun game to think about, yeah. But I think for me, I'm going to go with the main rub about that game was just the SCV pool. And then maybe a little bit Clem not being comfortable, like, as comfortable. It really is insane to try and explain why someone who is actually beating professional gamers as a separate race might not actually be as good as the usual race. We're talking about, like, that 0.1 difference that's still very important as you get up higher and higher and higher. And I think the most difficult place you could be in as your second race is up against Cheese and up against Relentless Aggression. And that is, Bjorn's definitely the type to do that. I wasn't a proxy barracks. That was an engineering bay block, just to be clear to what you saw on your screen. Now, I have no idea how this map plays out. So, speaking of other things that might hamper you a little more on your second race than your first, new maps. Seriously, the obvious thing would be, like, can you wall? Although walling's not as important in this matchup, but, like, can you wall? Okay, do you mess that up? Well, here messes it up all the time, so I guess it's okay. And the second thing is like, okay, if you do get engineering bay blocks, which base do you take? Clem made a very fast decision that looked very confident, and I'm going to assume that he knew what he was doing, but is this the base that he should have taken? I don't know. This base also looks like it could have been taken, I guess. I don't know. And I don't know, I feel like this wasn't in last map's map pool. So this should be really brand new. Well, regardless of a better or worse third base to take as your natural, there is also just the idea that you were engineered by blocked, forced to take a really weird base, and that the Terran player can follow up with a lot of aggression. Not as much as it used to be with the Cyclone change, of course, but still, they could be going into even Hellions. This actually is not Beyond's plan. I would not have minded that plan at all, but I do think it's a little bit on the nose. Typically, Protoss are most scared and thus prepared for the Hellion follow-up. But in this case, we had a non-issue on both sides. Clem didn't overreact to the potential, like changes his build order and his entire plan, and Beyond, well, just didn't go for Hellions. He did still go for a drop, I thought? Oh, wait. Oh, he is going for a drop. Make that present tense. Medevac not quite out yet, so Widowmine is going to be picked up and go for, well, let's be real, basically a scout. There's not much potential in this single Widowmine. There shouldn't be. I'm waiting. I'm hoping there isn't. I haven't even looked at the other weirdness about the map. We'll do that in a second. Oh my god, this is actually going to be effective. No. Okay, good. Well, that was a very late pull from Clem. Does manage to micro one probe away from the others. I mean, it would have gotten, I think, max 5, but yeah. That still would have been very bad for a single Widowmine drop. 1 is excusable, but going on to the map qualities, we got ourselves the setup of the bases. Natural would have had this protective mineral base that you can mine out to, I guess, get to this base, and this base. And then you have a choke here and no choke up here. Okay, interesting. Just saying how you would manage to attack in right now. So it kind of seems like on Clem's perspective, I guess we scan for an observer here, that if you protect this base, you can kind of protect this base and this base to an extent as well. Whereas if you took this base, then you kind of are protecting this base from this angle, and then potentially a fourth from that angle, I guess. That's a bit screwy. And then you have this junk going on the backs of the base, which is a ton of minerals. Good lord. Each requiring more than 1 mineral return, which is kind of annoying. And slow zones. And then a base you could take there, I guess, technically as well. Huh. A very interesting map design. Another observer. Is he actually killing observers, though? Yes, he is. Okay. I'm just always a second too late to see if he actually killed something. No! Okay, I saw that one. 3 observers have been killed. Glam, stop running them into the base. Just leave them right here. Map is actually killed. Kills switch. Kills witch. Not kill switch, kills witch. The gold patches are a metaphor for the injustice of medieval Europe. That's excellent analysis, thank you. Widowmine drop in the natural is seen lickety split. Clem did go for a very, very typical build here. Link charge into Colossus. We got Beyond going for a 2 base so far. He might pull the SCVs again, considering that it is still going to be that gateway priority. And SCV pulls are also still fine against Colossus. It's really Storm that they're just terrible against. Clem ready to tango. He's got a lot of zealots prepared. He really didn't macro up all that hard. He didn't macro up that as in get him a lot of bases, nor did he get a lot of technology. So he's supposed to have a pretty good fight right there. I wouldn't actually say that it was good enough, though. Lost a lot of zealots in the process. 6 probes also going down. Losing that position means that his probes are going to be harassed from the low ground. And Beyond stays in position. He is going to take his 3rd behind this, seen by the observer, so that's good information for Clem, but it's definitely not game over yet, but just the fact that that didn't actually quite push this away is a little concerning. The Zealots didn't push it away, kill the tank, and then Beyond comes racing back all the way from his own 3rd to Clem's, because that would have given him so much room to breathe. This is far less. But a Colossus is on the way out. More Zealots have been built. A Guardian Shield will be available this time. And I think this is a push that Bjorn will have to respect, especially as his tank unsieges at possibly the worst time. Widowmines will pop off. Good little split at the last second there from Clem. Colossus going to help out against the Marines that are left over, but yet again, the Zealots just aren't... They're not good enough. They are getting taken down too fast. So Widowmines pop off on them. Not in a bunch, but still helping. And then the Marines weren't actually as in danger as they're supposed to be up against Colossus, so they were able to free fire on the Zealots. And that tank is still anchoring this push. This is one of those situations where you don't push it back once, okay, you still have another chance. You don't push the Terran player back twice, then I think that's when you're really starting to sweat. Especially if you don't have very much else going for you. Now, Clem does have the Colossus technology, and that's a great addition. He still is only on 3 bases, 3 gas. So... Oh, wait, what? Wait a minute. I totally missed a cancel on the command center. Sorry, guys. So that was canceled. I mean, that's some good news, at least. Bian would have had quite the lead in the economy if he had gotten that down, and they'd be currently mule dropping it. And that would boost Bian up quite a bit. Dropping the main base, though, once again, finding quite the Artosis pylon. That's another 4 buildings, 5 buildings even. All of them in use. Delayed by a pylon's production. We do have the opportunity given for Clem to try and break through on the front lines, however, thanks to Bjorn divvying up his army so much, so does lose the tank anchoring that position. And should be a little scared of a counterattack. He did not see the observer. 4th time is the charm, apparently. Okay, finally does find out. Because that observer can give the green light to Clem to try and pressure at this point. Like, if the 3rd was down on location this entire time, and Clem did get that opportunity to push back the army, maybe he would have tried going for a little bit of a counterattack. Without it being down, I mean, there wasn't really a reason to. Now it's down, now it's a pivotal point of defense, and Clem now also has his entire army all together, getting all of its upgrades as well. +2 finishing, Thermal Lance finishing, 3 Colossus, kind of the magic number. War Prism on the way. And this is where Bjorn starts to struggle a little bit, perhaps. He's got 1 Ghost on his side, 3 Vikings, not enough, but a very, very big bio army. 1-1 did +2 as well, so upgrades basically even. I really want to just continue emphasizing how much Clem could be committing here. 4 Ghosts now, 2 EMPs already blinking the Protoss army. Nice concave potential if Clem does not pull back through this choke, which he does. But unfortunately, still not able to withstand the might of the Terran army. He had to pull all the way back, giving Bjorn a nice concave, back his 3rd CC, although 19 SCVs were lost, and replacing that's not going to happen particularly quickly. No upgrades on the way for Bjorn. He's not really waiting for anything except more Vikings and a better concave. Clem thinks he's got an opportunity, and I'm with him to an extent. The problem is that once those Zealots are gone, the rest of the Protoss army does tend to just fall quickly. And if it does, Clem doesn't have a lot going on for him in the background. He is in a bully position at this point. He's doing great, but there's always that chance that the Terran takes one hell of a fight. And that's basically what Clem has to make sure does not happen. It's something that MaxPack's got really good at. The pressure onto the Terran's 3rd that even takes advantage of the continuous stims, the weakened army. As the battle goes on, there is a downside to what the Terran's doing, right? Their upside is Terran's advantage, but the downside is all these stims. And, well, now we got a War Prism in the main. Vikings too late to stop that from happening. Now forced to be pulled into the fight. That's already a half-injured Terran force, but no Zealots available. Means that it's a very flimsy Protoss army. Some Zealots helping out here, and the bio is so stimmed. Even a couple of Colossus beams managed to take down a good portion of the army. This is all at sacrifice of Bjorn's main base, by the way, guys. He's not mining off his 3rd. He's not mining in his main. And I think Clem has done it. He's a bit bare bones himself. Did make a couple of more probes to put him above 60 again. But it was the right thing to do. The aggression works out. The War Prism in the main is the real killer, though. That just made sure that Bjorn was on all in. And Bjorn did not take the slam dunk engagement that I was describing. I'm talking one of those engagements where the entire Protoss army tries to recall, but it's already dead, basically. Then they're trying to warp in zealots, emergency zealots. That's not quite what happened there, although Bjorn is looking for it yet again, but his army is just so injured. The medevacs are out of healing. Clem just needs to hold on here, and 2 Colossus will help do that. As more zealots get warped in, Bjorn will be forced to tap out. Clem will hold, and we will go to a game 3. Maybe not so sad about your bet now, huh? Being able to smell dinner for the last 2 hours is really making me hungry. It's another 3 hours till dinner. It's all tied up here on ley lines. In the top right as Protoss, he is Clem, and in the bottom left it is Bjorn. Clem showing some good decision making in that last game. He did go for what a lot of Protoss are doing now, which is the Gateway Colossus, low gas, able to make a good amount of zealots. A very good amount of zealots. But it can be tricky. The initial defenses with the zealots can be quite harrowing as they disappear before your eyes against the and then the actual attacking portion can still be really scary because you are committing with quite a lot of basic units. They do get EMP'd. They do magnet themselves to a Widow Mine. They all die. They are the beefiest thing you have in your Protoss army, so that when it is only Stalkers and Colossus, you can be amazed at how quickly they fall. But it's a style that's been really working out well for Protoss for a while at this point. While they don't have that typical, I guess, true death ball, I guess you could say, they don't have 7 bases and 14 gases. That took me far too long. They still have that time to really bully the Terran. And for Bjorn, I think 2 things really sucked for him. The biggest thing that sucked was definitely the Warp Prism. The fact that he wasn't able to stop that from happening with his Vikings really quite near his main base, right? Really painful. Because if it was just all of the army coming through that one choke, there's a lot more back and forth, I think, that has to happen before someone really gets crowned the winner. Whereas that Warp Prism in the main was just a well-placed dagger in the kidney or something. Anyway, and another thing was the 3rd CC being canceled that I missed. I don't know what it was. A couple of Stalkers, a single Zealot, I don't know. But the 3rd CC being canceled, first of all, kind of deserved. Bjorn was hoping that his aggression on the front lines would cover his third, and to an extent it kind of did as far as the pathway of reinforcements. But something clearly got in there and canceled it. So, it's, you know, kind of getting appropriately smacked for being a little greedy, but still, that greed was supposed to pay off. He was supposed to get his third CC on location, turn it into an orbital, and instantly start muling it. And I don't think I can overemphasize how much cleaner that would have made his macro. These are things that are hard to describe, but if you ever play Terran and you get an on-location CC versus an off-location CC, you'll know the difference, even if you're not particularly good at StarCraft. But then just like, you know, triple it in forms of pro gaming. It can be a huge difference maker. At the very least, the difference, is the economy, 100%, no arguing against that. But the second thing that's really bothersome about it is just the attention that it takes away. Having to actually rebuild it, first of all, but then make it to the orbital, and then move it over, and then rally your SCVs to the minerals, and then make sure you don't accidentally rally the third CC as it's lifted so it doesn't actually land. The more I'm talking about it, the more I'm convinced it's my own pet peeve. But still, it's important. And I think if that didn't happen, if it was just up all the entire time, I think there's a good chance that Bjorn has what's necessary to actually defend against Clem's aggression. Perhaps even Clem would actually second guess being so aggressive, and then would rely more on that warp prism. Oh, nice. That warp prism to try and at least scare Bjorn and force him to move armies out of position. But anyway, we do have a game in process. 4 minutes in, we did have another engineering bay block that was not really backed up by anything particularly aggressive. It's a double Wood of Mine drop this time, and 2 Wood of Mines well placed. Did find 2 Adepts. Doesn't happen that often. That was nice for Bjorn. Clem is going into a Twilight Council for Blink, and Robo as well. Very similar to last game. Hopefully without so many observer kills. He did have to make 5 observers, I think, by the end of the game. Wood of Mine drop is already heavily injured. These stalkers are on the chase, which means that they are not back at home. But Wood of Mines, you know, you just pull the probes away, right? So not having the army at home is not the worst thing in the world against this particular drop, although mismicroing your probes would be the worst thing. And so the stalkers, they come back, they deal with it. The medevac's half injured and now stuck in a corner. Overall, I think good handling from Clem, who, most importantly, is getting his third Nexus and continuing to build probes. Bjorn going very much into a familiar follow-up. He's going into some tanks to help him protect himself. Blink is done. Charge ASAP, and then Colossus eventually. Wood of Mine does manage to burrow, and the medevac does escape. Barely alive. And I think it also got a little bit of a scout. Sees that Twilight Council still researching after 5 minutes. That's either a very late blink or, you know, a queued up charge. It's probably a queued up charge. Auto turret comes in as soon as Clem thinks the main base is safe. Although no probes were killed. Nice pull from Clem. This Raven does not look like it's going to be getting interference matrix. In fact, when is the last time I saw an interference matrix? No, I think I did actually see it last week. So not that bad. I think I did see it last week. But it seems to have really fallen out of fashion. I mean, far and away different from what it was 2-3 years ago, whatever, before they changed the interference matrix to an upgrade. And then it was as natural as breathing to get even 2 or even 3 Ravens. Remember, that was becoming the meta. But anyway, not going to get it this time. Raven will be for almost purely harassment reasons. An anti-armor missile can't be understated. It can very much influence the exact same battle that I think we're going to get in this game as last, the one where Bjorn is on the defensive, holding up against the relentless charge lots of the very low gas Protoss. Then an anti-armor missile is brilliant. And that's considering the Raven is even a part of the fight and doesn't die beforehand. Clem has gotten his macro up pretty much without disruption. He is going once again. Oh no, 4 gases actually. Almost certain he was on 3 gases for a lot longer last time. Turret harassment will still be annoying, but only 2 probes go down. A little bit of a scout, I guess, as well. Yeah, I saw this side of the robotics bay. That was a blind scan. That is, or maybe it wasn't actually. keep missing when the observers die. And then the timing of the reinforcing observer is just perfect for me to think that the observer didn't die and that was the one that was supposed to be scanned, but actually it's just another observer that's dead. That is once again 3 observers dead in this game. That's so funny. Actually, that would be one of those things that I actually think a main Terran would be better at, is keeping their observers alive. I mean, one observer dying, like the one that was here, I think that's just natural. But the fact that 3 observers have died, that's pretty funny. Alright, so double drop is found out and is killed. It sacrifices 2, I believe 3 stalkers actually for it, but to take out the entire power of the drop, I think is worth it. Auto turret harassment in the natural also appropriately handled, and no tertiary attack, so I think actually, by the looks of things, Clem will be the one on the map first with his main army. No! I swear to God, like, I don't know. I feel like when I play Protoss, and I consider myself a main Terran, even though I play a lot of Protoss, I feel like I really am like, oh no, I can't siege it on top of the Terran, because the Terran will obviously hear it and notice it. I'm like trying to be the cleverest little Protoss, putting my observers, you know, above the trees, for instance, or just slightly more away from the army, I guess, and not literally on top of it. Clem does not give a shit. And now the Bella Raven's here. No! Clem's not going to get any free vision. The rest of the map is pretty good as far as the vision. Got pylons. Got zealots ready for a run by. But this is a less complicated game. Not that last game was particularly complicated, but there is really almost no aggression beforehand. Bjorn's double drop was supposed to maybe open something up, but then it got slapped down so quickly, so hard. Bjorn, if he was going to move out with his main army, just was like, never mind. Don't even bother with it. So we have Clem able to macro almost perfectly. He has lost in total 8 probes. That is over almost all 10 minutes of the game, so not as devastating as all at once. And Bjorn has not tried to over-aggress here, just because that's how he usually plays, right? I think he's accepted that he's taken some losses, that it's not been an ideal situation, and he is waiting to defend against Clem's push in the best way possible. Already letting the warp prism in the main. Okay, no warp in. That's actually really important right there. Still a bit of a distraction, but Bjorn is well prepared on the front lines. Good wall to that north side. Predicts the run by from that angle. Has Tank still alive. Getting shots from the very beginning of the fight. And just so much army was available with fully energized medevacs as well, because there wasn't so much of the back and forth as there was in the last game. So the army was healthy, and the medevacs immediately healed up the stim. 16 SCVs did go down, though, so I guess, well, the warp prism died, but then I don't know how the zealots still got in and killed so many SCVs, but they did. So that's a bit of a bummer, because otherwise it looked like a really good defense. 16 SCVs, a little more than I was expecting. 8 maybe by some leftover zealots he didn't quite track down, but 16, ouch kadibbles. Nonetheless, Bjorn is on the offensive. He did take a very convincing defensive fight, and now he's going to try and get these zealots to run into his army away from the Colossus, melt the zealots, deal with the rest of the army later. Tank will finally get taken down, but it did a great job literally tanking the Colossus damage. And the ideal situation for the Terran is to pull the zealots away from the main army, kill them, and then collapse on the rest. All the while, the Colossus are just desperately trying to catch up, and that's kind of what happened there to an extent. Now we are over-stimmed, however. We need some time for those medevacs to actually heal us up. Anti-armor missile would be great. There we go. He gets a hit. Clem still has a 20 supply lead. He has built up his economy as well. Last game, I kept pointing out his economy, not because it's atypical of what he was doing, but because it was worth noting. It was sub 60 probes up until some of the last minutes of that game. So there was low technology. It was very emphasized on the zealots, but it also just didn't have that much economy. Now we're on 5 bases, 77 probes. There's going to be a lot of wiggle room here for Clem as he gets back into a bullying position. He's going to take advantage of this wall, and by that I mean actually kill it. We got an engineer bay and an armory researching. Snipes on those would be good. I think it's going to happen. +2 attack, not going to be in the cards for Bjorn. That is very unfortunate and just a straight up mistake, honestly. One that he won't make in the future, but it looks like +2 or no. That is just too much Protoss. And Byan is going to lose out here. Clem, 2-1, advances on to the winners finals. Where he faces either Trigger or... No, he faces Trigger. Okay, so Trigger's been waiting, actually. So Clem versus Trigger is Europe versus Korea. Trigger's still in Korea. So we'll be on NA for this as well. Hey. Thank you very much.
Loving the commentary, as always.
Well, thank you. I didn't catch who that was. There we go. Mr. Chaz, thank you for the $10. Appreciate the support. So Byan faces Jumi in the lower bracket. Spirit defeated... Alright, here's how it went down. Hero defeated Bunny, but then lost to Jumi. And is now facing Byan. Good on Jumi. Spirit defeated Solar, and then defeated Showtime. Now these are all best of ones, and it's going to cause some more volatility there, but still good results from those guys. So Spirit waits for the winner of Byan Jumi, and then they'll face the loser of this, and then they'll face the finals. Is anyone going to bet on Trigger? It's a good question. Trigger is on a roll right now. He defeated Showtime and Hero. And Hero Marine. So he's doing pretty well. Even against Terran. There's time for an underdog bet. I think it would be now. But I would still categorize him as the underdog. No, I don't think he's going to play Protoss. He plays Terran versus the other races. Yeah, there's no cat in the cat cam. There's plenty of cats around me, but none of them want to sit down. Apollo, come here. Come to your spot. I got Dimitri, I got Apollo, I got Ziggy. I think Wicket's around here somewhere. They're taking a bit to make the lobby. God, I got all the cats watching me now. They're all staring at me. Cat cam has higher frame rate. Maybe. I think Clem done BRB'd. He's gotta eat his baguette. Made the mistake of telling my nephew that we went to a French restaurant for my mom's birthday and we ordered snails. And now all he does whenever we talk about food, like what's for dinner or where do you want to go to a restaurant, whatever. He's like, you're gonna eat snails? Ew. And snails are merely a oil and garlic carrying device. They're quite good. The cats are all good, except I am gonna take Nugget back to the vet tomorrow. She sprayed a couple times, which is already a little problematic, but what actually I think is more worrying is that it's odorless. Now you might be like, oh, crazy cat lady with 6 cats just can't recognize the smell of pee anymore. No, I definitely can. But apparently, like an odorless or lighter odor can mean that they're drinking a lot, and that could mean that they have like kidney problems or diabetes, actually. And we already had a cat who had diabetes. We had a cat named Baby, and we'd just constantly be asking people, you know, family members, like, did you shoot Baby? I don't think it's a UTI, because if it's UTI, I think it would already show a lot more effects. UTIs are really quick acting and dangerous. Yeah, we kept Baby for like 6 years past her diabetes. What's the word? When she was labeled as having diabetes. She was diagnosed. There you go. A diagnose. And cats are actually some of the only animals that can actually recover from diabetes. They can actually stop needing insulin. But we'll see. We're going to get a blood test on her and see what's going on. Alright, we're finally ready for some StarCraft. I don't know why it took so long, but it did. Thanks, Casper. All right, we got ourselves a new best of 3. It's the winners finals, but not the finals. In the bottom right, we do have our Terran, Clem. And in the top left, as our Protoss, it is Trigger. Clem does not play TVT, he plays TVP, but for the other races, he will play Terran. Now, why exactly is that? I don't know for sure what he said. It is not uncommon for many a Terran across all levels to just not like TVT. I don't know what it is, but it does seem like as far as mirror matchup complaints, the Terrans have the most. Or maybe they're just the whiniest in general. I'll accept that. I don't mind being made fun of as a Terran main. So that could be it. That could be it, honestly. Clem is a kid who seems... I can't call him a kid anymore. He is a young adult that seems to just love StarCraft, and he plays it without complaint for a lot. But maybe even for a guy like that, it starts to wear on you a little bit, TVT. But I think what also happened, perhaps in conjunction with that, is that there was a balance patch that directly changed TVT. Now, I think TVT had actually become one of Clem's best matchups at one point. Now, that was basically when he was the trifecta. He was good at every single matchup. He was the best. He was literally the best player. And I think that would have actually stayed true in EWC if he had faced a Terran, but he managed to avoid TVT. So people would still call TVT his worst. And I just don't think that was actually true for a long period of time. Maybe technically worst as in 70% win record versus 72 and 75. But it was always frustrating. It did take him a long time to finally get kind of how the pacing worked and how he liked playing TVT. And when the TVT changed, and it actually reverted, because they changed the cyclone, and that was the big change, it seemed like that was a bit of a breaking point. That's when Clem started playing far more Protoss versus Terran, and instead of working on how to make TVT work for him, he's just like, I don't want to. And I'm totally fine with that. I think if we were still in super hardcore DreamHack Dallas to EWC to Montreal to Shanghai, I don't know. If we were in an actual circuit, I would have my doubts about that plan. But I think for the situation right now, it's totally valid. Anyway, we do have good old Clem versus Protoss. And just to be really clear, he's still freaking good versus Protoss. As Terran. Him and Trigger were conversing and kind of joshing around. And Trigger said, don't worry about the server, you're going to win anyway. Clem said, says the guy who just demolished Hero and Showtime. And then Trigger said, says the guy who just killed me 7 hours ago. So, I guess they played recently and it didn't go Trigger's way. But I think Trigger's best chance, just because he is on a roll. And he did defeat Hero Marine, which is some testament to his versus Terran. But at this point in time, Hero Marine, you might even call a semi-pro. I don't know if that's rude, but it's not the old situation it was 2 years ago. And we know that Hero Marine's TVP had been far outclassed by Clem's for the last 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, I do agree that Trigger is the underdog, but it's his best chance here in this best of 3, and I guess an even better chance is just Hail Mary cheese. So we got a Dark Shrine on the way, something that Clem has not been able to see. He actually hasn't seen the Twilight Council either. What he has seen, I guess, are a number of Adepts. I'm not sure how many, but 3 Adepts can sometimes just mean Stargate. It's not hard and fast, though, case in point. So you see 3 Adepts with a drop, and you might think, where's the Stargate? He didn't make very expensive units, I guess. Well, there isn't one. There is a very, very, very important Dark Shrine to hide. 3 Adepts died to 5-6 Marines. Stalker dies. That Stalker's not gonna win. Well, I guess Trigger just loses. Okay, that's cool. Now Clem finally sees the Dark Shrine, by the way. That was very late. He does not have a scan, and he is currently supply blocked. Supply block isn't as important, though, as the lack of scan. Okay, damage will be done. But Trigger, this should have been almost game-winning for him, actually. If he took care of that medevac the way that you're kind of supposed to, This would be game-ending damage, probably, because he would have hit a little bit faster, and Clem would have been would not have seen the Dark Shrine as a preemptive scout. And yeah, this is game. Yeah, it's a classic example of snowball right there, and this has happened with Clem's PvP against a lot of Protosses. I mean, he does this occasionally versus Max Packs, versus Hero, I'm sure. Just the medevac drop that is not a big deal, but because you don't fully commit to the defense, because you think you have time, because you think you have enough units, whatever reason, it snowballs. We have seen that from Clem in this matchup and in TVZ and in TVT when he played it. He plays against literally the best players in the world, and every so often he gets these early aggressive openers, and then they literally win the game. What needed to happen right there is that Trigger needed to not engage with his 3 Adepts, but rather pull away and then join in with his 2 Stalkers. And if he had literally all 5 units fighting full health or close to it against full health 5 Marines, 6 Marines, and I wouldn't mind, I guess. You know, then it's still kind of annoying, but it shouldn't be game ending. And then you hide the Dark Shrine, and then the Dark Shrine does more damage. But if only that was the way it actually went. Want more cheese? Trigger was the one who was cheesing, and he barely even got to. You cannot actually call that a cheese from Clem, I think. Even if it was a 1-1-1 before Command Center. It's like really hard to call a single medevac Marines to cheese. In the bottom left, up 1, he is Clem. In the top right, it is Trigger. Trigger did go for a greedy build in a sense. You know, it's cheesy. It is a cheese, but in a sense that you don't commit a lot to anything before the Dark Templar. You're trying to get away with as little as possible to get to the fastest and most Dark Templar possible. I'm not saying they should have had more units because of that, because 5 kind of sounds right. 3 from the regular gateway, and then Warp Gate would have finished, and then he would have had 2 gateways, so that would have been the 2 Stalkers that warped in. So I think that was literally as much as he really could get, but I could be wrong about that. But I think you're also trying to be really secure in that Dark Shrine, keeping the Dark Shrine hidden, right? So if you think there is a possibility that you can jump on an unloading medevac to get it the hell out of the way, you would take it. The very least to make sure that it doesn't get a scout in your man. And so in that way, Trigger was vulnerable until the Dark Shrine was done, until he actually warped in DTs. He was vulnerable. But it's still kind of a Clem special to actually straight up win with a single medevac and units in it. The Trigger might not try that again. Or he might, because who would expect it? That's the ultimate 4D chess right there. But I don't know what else he really is thinking might work. It is pretty clear based off of their history, their conversation today, and I guess the last game, that Trigger is not confident in his ability to win versus Clem. And if you're not confident, you're going to do different things. Or you're going to sometimes do things half-hearted. I'm not saying he is playing half-hearted, but I think we've all had that moment where we're just kind of like, well, I will go into the main base with the Warp Prism, but I don't expect anything. And that does change things, yeah. So if a cheese doesn't work, maybe Trigger does something more usual and just hope that it actually pans out. But I think that is one of his better chances, actually, to do something usual. And by usual, I mean blink into Colossus. Into that push off of 3 gases. There's a chance that it works for Trigger against Clem. And I think Trigger also does well when the game gets scrappy for both parties. Which that last game was almost scrappy for both parties, but the amount of damage already done to Trigger really just set that up well for Clem. So I feel like Trigger is the North American player who gets into kind of a mid-game situation, fares fair on the economy, 2 base to 3, and then goes for an attack at the same time a Doom Drop comes in, and then it gets really weird. That's what I think of for Trigger. Not necessarily hardcore DTGs. 2 Adepts do not survive. Fortunately, the one does get gunned down on the top side. Clem did get a Reaper in and was successful in scouting the Twilight Council. Now, all he saw was a Twilight Council. This actually could absolutely be a Dark Shrine. And it would be that he knows that I know that he knows that I know. It's kind of stupidity that would be going for a DT second. But I wouldn't have minded it. I think it would have been really funny and maybe could have worked. But it's not. It's Blink. Robo's on the way. Clem getting a starport at this point did go for a 2-1-1. So he's not going to have a drop that actually could have seen a little more. Could have actually been the secondary scout. That's telling you, man. The second Dark Shrine would have worked. The third Nexus is on the way for Trigger. Something that Clem will probably beeline towards with this Cyclone. Well, no, not a Cyclone. The Cyclone timing would be very... Yeah. Nah, never mind. You know that Blink is going to finish around 440. So... But he might beeline it with the army. Might be his first point of attack. He does have a medevac on the way with a tank. Could actually push. Thing is, he really doesn't have any of the follow-up scouting. I mean, Clem is in the dark here, so I don't think he's gonna try anything particularly clever. There are pushes that he has done that try to make it across the map with a tank, siege it up before the Protoss player has really taken control over the map. And if you get that sieged up with your units there, that can be very annoying for someone who only has like 2 Gateway Stalkers. But, on the other hand, if the Stalkers do get active and they do catch you before you're sieged and damage the medevac and kill a couple of Marines, then you just look like a fool for trying, so. Clem's definitely not doing that one. He just sends a medevac out and then clear out the pylon for the scouts and then prepare to take a third. If he does, it's going to have to be just literally on location. It clears out the Adepts. It's a bit ambiguous for Trigger. Oh, good scan. Catches the Observer. Marine scouts the presence of a third. That was most likely. And the main base could be under fire next. Looks like Clem's not going to try for it, or at least not for the main. He's going to unload to the third and try and team up with this push. So he is doing this push. The Stalkers do see it coming, but one of them will lose their lives. More Stalkers absolutely necessary. Immortal does pop out. 4 gateways are available. So that's actually a pretty good amount of gateways right now to try and defend against this push. It's Stim, no combat shields. Immortal to help out against the tank ideally, but the Immortal not in range. Currently just kind of... I mean, it does help versus the Marines, but it's not really what it's supposed to be doing. Now it gets on top of the tank, but at the cost of its life. Shield Battery does not save it. And shield batteries that would have maybe saved it are a little too late. That's a not convincing number of units from Clem. I could see him pulling back, but the tank is still alive. It does siege up, and the second Immortal is not here yet, so he's going to try and continue pushing the issue. Third CC does go on location, back at home. Zealots with charge, definitely helpful. Tank taken out by the Stalkers, but again, sacrificing some of them. Woodamines pop off on the Zealots pretty much perfectly. And it's Bio left against only Stalker. The Bio does not mind that. It actually doesn't even really mind an Immortal that's been added in, but it might mind pushing into 3 shield batteries. So Clem not going to try and push his luck. More charge lots will be warped then to help out with the drop to the main. Hoping for some success. 2 Woodamines. Trigger, please don't die to the Woodamines. Okay, good. He does pull away. And you might also notice that his gas isn't fully saturated. But he's also trying to get a 4th base, so his attention might be elsewhere The Widow Mine's a good distraction. Lost mining time. Fourth base going to have to be canceled. It is canceled at the very least. Medevac targeted. Nicely done. Widow Mine's cleaned up without killing all of the Zealots, but that's not much left over. Trigger, I would say weirdly confident right there. Yeah, I can kind of see why. That was a very tough thing to actually judge. It does kind of turn around on Clem to a degree. And things settle down, but I don't think at all in favor of Trigger, who is down in army supply. That could be okay if he was correctly on 4 bases saturation. If he was heading up to 70 probes and he was down by 10 army supply, I'm like, that's a warping. That's not going to matter. But instead, Trigger is actually down a worker against a Terran who is now successfully on 3 orbitals, 3 mules being dropped down. His 4th base is not looking awfully well protected. There's no static defense to help out here. And, well, upgrades are good, but they're not anywhere close to finishing for this fight. Clem is looking at a lot of units, though. That's a lot of Zealots. Yeah, I think he needs to reinforce who actually takes the engagement. This might be the last power spike that Trigger even has, though. I mean, that might have been literally the only opportunity in which his army outshone Clem's, and that's because it wasn't all together. With reinforcements, however, I think that Clem will win the battle. Widowmine does help the Protoss a little bit by killing a medevac, but the Immortal is unguarded. The Zealots just not high enough in numbers, and oh, they got a Widowmine drop. They did successfully kill probes. I thought that was the most important thing. Yeah, that was pretty much it. The only time that Trigger had a moment was maybe with this army up against the remnants over here. But even if he had taken that fight and won it, it's, you know, it would have bought more time for Clem to reinforce. There is no way that Trigger would win this game. I'm a little surprised he's still in it. He does know about the 3rd. He's gonna see how big the Terran army is. He's gonna tap out pretty soon, I would expect. Zealots are trying to make something happen. This would be brilliant if they had pulled the army back and kept Trigger's 4th base alive. They did not, though. And there's the official GG. Clem with a 2-0. Clean, quick, easy. Advances to the bracket finals, the grand finals, however you want to call it. And now awaits the winner of Trigger versus either Spirit or Beyond. Spirit Beyond currently happening in the lower brackets, a best of 1. Even as TVT, it shouldn't go that long. Spirit is well known for his turtleness, though. I'm not sure any commentator actually. Oh no, Roddy usually goes to the lower bracket, right? Yeah, Roddy's streaming it. Have I gotten any farther with your StarCraft documentary? Yes, but maybe not in the way you're asking. Right now, it's just literally cataloging. I mean, releasing the interviews is something that I'm doing to have content out there as promised, but it's also because I have to go through all of the interviews and record the questions. Because I can tell you, after doing like 30 plus interviews, I don't remember any of them. Every time I edited a new interview, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good answer. Oh yeah, that was a good question. Excited? Well, thank you. Feel like the expectations, or rather, are too high. But I asked for it. I mean, as soon as I mentioned the word documentary, I invited the expectations. You guys can't see it, but my eldest cat is playing like a kitten right now. He's being cute. Apollo's like darting around the wall. What are they called? Cat trees. Hello. Hi, Apollo. Are you having fun? Staring at me. Okay then. Oh god, they're both staring at me. Guess we can, Oh, no, I did redeem it. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Oh, thanks, Mike. Where's the release stuff? Yeah. It's on a YouTube channel. Good Luck, Have Fun YouTube channel. It's not on my main one. It is already, like 10, 12 interviews set up, I guess. Maybe I should have gotten a TVT, actually. Not because, you know, Trigger was destined to lose, but because we don't get too many now. Hello, Apollo. Would you like to say hi? Say hi. There's the old man. Release me. I'm in kitten mode now. That is a white cat. It looks like your white cat. Does your white cat have a tail, though? That's how I tell the difference. Apollo's only got a little bitty tail. It only goes up and down, not side to side. You talked about removing part of the tail? Oh, was it injured? Yeah, it's sometimes the first thing I'm asked about Apollo is if he was injured. Nope, he was born. Phantom pain or something. Oh, that's interesting. Looks like Bjorn's in trouble. Oh, the Ravens aren't going to get their interference matrix, so... maybe not. Spirit can't collapse in on this army. He doesn't necessarily have to, though. I mean... Okay, well, he is. Takes 2 tanks out of the equation. I don't know, though. Yeah, I guess it'll be good enough. That was painful, though. That was a painful break. I don't know if that was actually good enough. I don't know. He might regret trying to break that. I mean, you want to break it. You want to get it out of the way, because the next step would it be dropping into the main with medevacs, but I don't know if that was good enough. I guess we did talk about the potential of needing to remove Apollo's little foot. But fortunately, it's never been a problem. He almost lost it when he was a wee baby. Now it's just deformed. Which makes him unique. He's so cute. He's such a good boy. He's in my lap right now, purring. Man, Beyond is Beyond's gonna win this game. Wow, cat broker. Man, your cat's adventurous. Apollo didn't even get injured by going outside. He got injured by staying inside and being a kitten. Being a kitten who was getting into wires and shit, probably. We had a cat once named Nala, though. Sister to Baby. And Nala was one of our last outdoor cats. And she was tough, man. But one thing I found interesting is that her voice changed. I think anyway, that like there's this thing that happened when she was younger, like from like 0 to 4. She was actually kind of like a hissy, prissy cat. But she loved going outside. And then I feel like around like age 4 or 5, I remember she came back home without her collar. And her voice was different, and she was a lot nicer. And I feel like she almost strangled herself or something. And from then on, her voice was really raspy. So when she was like 17, she lived to be 17 or 18. She just sounded very appropriate. She sounded like an old lady cat. I took in the wrong cat. No, it was definitely the right cat. So you sound different, and you look different. Oh well. There weren't many half Persian kitties in the neighborhood. With a squish face. My father called Baby and Nala Squish Face and Smash Mouth. Because if you don't know, Persians have like a squished in face. They're only half, so it wasn't as bad as you can see, but... And then we stopped letting our cats outside. When Nala was in her heyday, man, she would bring us like 3 or 4 animals to our doorstep. It was like... We're responsible for like 20% of the nature animal decimation of Virginia. Yeah, GG's. Yeah, so it was an interesting game. Bjorn wins. Oh yeah, go over to Korea. Korea was giving me some trouble. Let's see if it still is. Okay, cool. We're good. For Tabby, I wasn't so short. I would 100% confuse her for another one. I think so that's like the one type of cat we never had. We never actually had a tabby, like the most basic cat that you think of when you think of a cat. Isn't that funny? But anyway, I feel like I see tabbies and I'm like, how do you guys tell them apart? And I've gotten more experience with that, and I volunteered to look after like cats that are shelter kitties that are being like displayed at PetSmart, and they actually have a procedure for when cats look alike. And it's to put like a tiniest little dollop of nail polish on them, on their tip of their ear. But one time they didn't, and there was two cats. I think they were both tuxedos, maybe. I don't know, but they looked exactly the same. And they're like, make sure to do this for that cat and this for that cat. And I'm like, how? But you don't. But I really can't tell which is which. Yeah, we never had a generic store brand cat. Alright, this is the best of one. I'm gonna make it 5 minutes long. We finally have a game. In case the cat talk wasn't riveting. It's a best of one to determine who faces... Oh, wait, no. Yeah, who faces Clem? Yeah, okay. This is the losers finals. In the top right, it is Trigger. And in the bottom left, it is Beyond. We are all on Hellscape. I just want to double check what I just said right there. Okay, yeah. We're on Hellscape. This is the default map, by the way. All of the lower bracket has a default map, as it is a best of one. So there are no choices, there are no vetoes. I don't know what the balance is for this one. But the winner of this goes on to face Clem, so either way we will have a rematch. Both of these players did face Clem and have emerged here in the losers finals. And we'll get to the final format when we get to it. But for now, it's TVP. Trigger did defeat Hero Marine earlier today, but Hero Marine isn't what he used to be in the Open Cups, and also has not been, I think, as committed to really pro gaming for a while at this point. So while he's obviously still very good, it'll take a long time before he's, you know, bad. That's still... It's not quite indicative of Trigger versus Beyond, Trigger versus Clam, Trigger versus even Spirit, honestly, I think, at this point. Trigger is coming as the underdog against most of these Terrans. Certainly against Clem. Certainly against Beyond, I'm pretty sure. I will say one thing, which is that Trigger might play Beyond more often, as they are both residing in Korea right now. It is possible that Trigger plays against him on the ladder, and that'll give you some insight as to how he plays, and you might look a little better than some other guy you don't play against as much. But it also might mean that he actually wins against Beyond on ladder, in which case we don't have access to that information. So this actually could be more even than we think. But then two, it might mean that Trigger has confidence against Beyond, because he took a game recently, like 6 hours ago. They were playing on the ladder. Who knows? It is also a best of one, so you know, an upset. Beyond's a little over aggressive. He gets slapped back down, and Trigger could win. I wanted to check out their actual history, and there is a surprise here. So Beyond basically dominates their history. There's a lot of Beyond winning on this one. It's 36-8 in matches against Trigger. However, the most recent match played by these two against each other was a best of 5 that Trigger won 3-0. So, yeah, that's pretty promising, actually. Now, this is the last 10 series they've played have been actually pretty close together. They're all in like March or February, and we still have Beyond winning 9 of those series. But the most recent one was Decidedly in Trigger's favor, so there is some hope here. There is some hope. More so than when we had Trigger versus Clem, I guess. So we got ourselves a Reaper opener from Bjorn, but more than just a Reaper. He did produce 2 more, as well as 2 Hellions, Reactor Barracks, Factory before it adds anything on. It is a wee bit aggressive, just a little bit. I haven't seen this do a tremendous amount of damage in recent memory, but I'm looking at the setup here, and I don't like it for Trigger. Okay, 4 Stalkers. That's so much better. Okay. No problem then, no problem. Funnily enough, this is one of those things where the timing worked really well for Trigger. Initially, it looked kind of serious. 2 Stalkers against that. They're going to blow right past it. But the 3rd coming from the main, the 4th popping out of the gateway, it means that they weren't all together to be grenaded either, so that Bjorn could have just like blown past all the units into the probe line. That ended up coming out to be good for Trigger. But as I was saying, I haven't really seen that do a lot of damage in recent memory. What could probably be way scarier is the follow-up. Sometimes the follow-up in a TVP is kind of boring. You do something different amongst the first 5 minutes of the game, but then you always go into, you know, like you got a 1-1-1 set up, and then you got the 2 barracks, and then you build a couple of tanks to defend yourself, and then you wait for stim and combat shields before you actually move out. Well, fortunately, it's a little different this time. Bjorn has been playing a bit more with the Banshees than other Terrans in this matchup, I think, and he's doing it again here. So if he has a follow-up of Banshees and still has the Reapers alive, Trigger could be basically just thrown all over the map, you know, chasing after the Reapers, trying to defend the main, as well as the natural. And then the Reapers join in on the main base and kill the probes that were injured by the Banshee. It's gonna get a little chaotic. And Trigger does not know that. No scout on the Banshee. Reapers and Hellions gonna just dart into the natural, pull the defense away from the main as well. The Banshee swoops on in, and that is a combination that grabs 6 probes. Observer has to be recalled, and the Banshee runs away. 1 Banshee will not pierce through a shield battery, but there are going to be 2 Banshees, perhaps together at some point. Right now, the second one is going to see the 3rd. Have we seen the Templar archives? No. That's something that Bjorn is missing. Oh, wait. No? No? Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, I think using the tools at your disposal currently is better than trying to hide the Templar archives. There's a chance that could have been really successfully hidden till the very last second, to the second where Trigger arrives on Bjorn's side of the map with a Warp Prism and Storm and 4 High Templars. It's possible. I don't know if it's really likely, though. So, as much as that could have been something in Trigger's favor, a hidden technology, it is not. Bjorn now knows that his opponent is going Charged Storm. And with the, I think with the timing of the High Templar, you're gonna figure it is Storm, not like a Zealot Archon attack. But I think it's something you do have to be scared of. Either way, the play is generally to be defensive. I've said that and then witnessed Bjorn or Clem be aggressive against a Storm play and been, you know, like just holding my breath the entire time because it can really go sideways. But they know much better. And yeah. It usually is easier to defend than it is to attack when you're talking about these, not movement-based compositions, but the more you move, the more you could be in danger if the Warp Prism control is good, is what I'm trying to say. So, in this case, no Warp Prism micro needed. The army just ran into the High Templar, but now that there is no Warp Prism and the tanks are sieged up and Bjorn knows where the army is, the Protoss should not be able to find much headway. You really need that Warp Prism. Bjorn was maybe hoping to get across the map before Trigger realized and then get sieged up before Trigger was ready. That didn't really happen, but he also didn't get totally clobbered by moving into the Protoss army unaware. They actually kind of bounced off each other. And as far as the rest of the game goes, there's a lot of other factors. Banshees have done a decent amount of damage, I guess. 15 probes have died, and that would definitely be worth 2 Banshees and Cloak. Fourth base is on the way for Trigger on the half gold, half blue base on Hellscape. Totally knew that was there. War Prism is now available for Trigger. That means he can actually get into the, hopefully the heart of the army without losing his High Templars. But then also, could be some Storm Drops. Wouldn't mind it. Would not mind it. It's pretty clear from the way that first engagement went down that there wasn't going to be a real opportunity. Oh, shit! Caveat. Make sure that there aren't 2 Widow Mines planted for the Storm Drop. Well, that's why I'd be a terrible coach, I guess. Yeah, go for the Storm Drop. That'd be amazing. Just loses everything. 4 SCVs went down for that. Totally not worth it for Trigger. But I was trying to say that I think it's been clear it's going to turn into more of a macro game since their first initiation didn't really head anywhere. Trigger couldn't really take advantage and push into Bjorn, and Bjorn wasn't really going to be confident moving around the map against the storms being ferried around or just placed around randomly. Not before he has ghosts. And ghosts are on the way. So as we go into the macro game, Trigger's going to need to add on another splash. Storm's not going to hold up against the EMPs. We've seen people try. I mean, it does on occasion still work as far as a long-term game plan, even though EMPs are so effective. I mean, they're one of the hardest counters you can find, I think, in StarCraft. Even then, the way that you would deal with it is obviously splitting your High Templars, keeping them in the War Prism, Doi, and then not just splitting your High Templars in an army fight, which is more so what I was talking about, but also High Templars just being littered around the map. Yeah, that used to be a thing, for sure. It used to be a thing to really stay on Charge Storm for a very long time. That has not been the case for a while. You gotta make the move over to Colossus or Disruptors or both, because the Terran control and their very hard counter EMP. It's pretty good against the composition Trigger currently has. The Trigger has spread his High Templars. He does have them coming from different locations. He's got backup High Templars. I gotta say, even 15 years later, Terrans across all skill levels will do the bam 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 EMP and then say, oh, I guess I win now, and they'll just like stim forward and die because the Protoss was smart enough to have backup storms. That still happens, and that could still happen in this game. Zealots actually arrive in the main base. There was a second War Prism made, and no, they did actually drop those off. Killing 15 SCVs is very nice, and being able to come back to help out with the storms. Nice denial of the Ghost EMP. 2 tanks, though, well hidden behind some Sim City. Going to be quite difficult to dislodge. It's another way of also dealing with a High Templar if your Ghost can't quite reach. So it looks like Trigger not going to be able to take a fight, not with the Sim City he was up against, but with 16 SCVs killed thanks to the War Prism in the main. I think you're feeling fairly confident. Trigger has 4 bases, mining, production abound, and 5th is even on the way. He's got double forges. A little later to the upgrades, though, actually. It is currently 1-1-1-1. Zealots going in for a little bit of harassment, but also a slight distraction. Perhaps the army of the Protoss can start to clear out the Widow Mines, maybe some of the production as well. Blessing and a curse right now for Bjorn and his production on the front lines. He does need this production, especially as his 4th base gets put on location, which is not going to be contested. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, definitely if you need 4 base, you need 8 barracks. But it also, you know, it's SimCity, but it's also stuff you need. So that would have been the conundrum. Looks like Trigger's not going to push the issue anyway, and Bjorn actually has some freedom to move out on the map, thanks in part because of a big old drop in the main base. That is a lot of Terran units going directly for those forges. Bjorn now guaranteed to have a 2-2 advantage in about 60 seconds. Not quite here yet, and he is missing one crucial thing on the forward attack. He is missing medevacs. However, not enough storms went down, or did they? 3 Colossus trying to clean up the remnants. Barely not able to do so. Vikings also going to kill 2 out of 3 of the Colossus before the recall goes down, and the main base was actually not cleaned up as much as one was hoping on both sides. The main attack and the secondary attack, Trigger did not defend perfectly. He was close. The main attack was almost a complete wash. I should stop saying main attack. The primary attack was almost a wash, and the attack in the main almost was cleaned up, but it lingered, and that lingering can really cause a lot of problems in the flow state of a pro gamer. Or any player, really. And we bring up flow state a lot for like Zerg players, but just as a general, they need to worry about other things other than, you know, getting on the forward attack is interrupting their flow state, I suppose. And so Trigger, I guess most importantly for him, right? He has to clean it up without losing anything else. Gets a little out of position because he has to clean up the main base. He also lost both forges. That is always going to be the worst thing about that Doom drop into the main. And Bjorn has a pretty well set up fourth base at this point. This fourth pretty easy to defend with these rocks. Trigger is on 5 bases, though. I mean, as much as there was a certain kerfuffle, he did lose out on both sides. He didn't lose out tremendously. So he's only down by about 10 supply. It's much more worrisome that he's down. Let's just round it and say 2 complete upgrades. His army already has the potential to be surprisingly weak. Once the EMPs hit, the Disruptors will have to be the heroes and chase off the Marauders trying to get the concave. Beyond not able to quite find the right moment, maybe finds it now. Disruptors on the front immediately get taken down. 1 or 2 storms helping, but not killing the units. Most importantly, does Trigger have the rest of the army to actually kill these now injured Marauders that are currently being healed by just half a dozen medevacs? I don't think so. Trigger is out of shield batteries, he's out of zealots, and he's out of disruptors. This might just be it. Looks like Trigger with the reinforcements will be able to push this back. An aggressive blink forward that I'm not sure was actually worth it. The Marauders took down so many Stalkers in the process. Oh, but a little misclick right there. Beyond moving his army back into the awaiting arms of the zealots. That's a little bit of a gift for Trigger, but I don't know if it's good enough. He's still down 30 supply, and Bjorn is rallying. Upgrades will continue to be an issue as well. 2-2 to 2-1. But 3 Colossus without too much of a counter is actually looking very good right now. Going back into Colossus rather than continuing to just pump out Disruptors is going to be very good when the Viking count has lowered. But it looks like the Viking count was not as low as we expected. 8 actually are available. They just were back at home. So the Colossus advantage quickly dispelled. Now you do need those Disruptors. Trigger, I think, kind of puffing himself up right now like a scared cat. He knows that he can't just sit back, and if he has a moment to take the advantage, to press the advantage, he's got to take it. But I think he knows he's actually not in a good position, and he knows that that fight would not have gone well for him, so he does pull back. But just being on the defense all the time is... You're hoping for them to overextend. You are no longer in control of your fate. That is a lot of Vikings, which, you know, eventually, if Trigger's allowed to live, the Colossus will be in a certain way expendable. You expect to lose them at the very least. And then maybe the Vikings aren't as helpful on the ground, although when they do lower on the ground, they have good anti-mechanical. They don't want to be up against a full Protoss army. And it looks like Trigger has managed to find some time. He's got 3 Disruptors now, but he's about to lose another Colossus. Shield Batter's not quite done to save the day. Vikings happily chasing them down as the Stalkers run away from the Marauders. Disruptor does get a hit, doesn't kill Marauders anymore, it only injures them. However, with a basically dead Marauder squad, looks like Bjorn is going to respect Trigger and move away. Now the Medevacs get to healing, but they don't have a lot of energy, and that is, once again, a problem. As it has been in many of the TVPs here today, even in a blink forward to try and get those one-shot Marauders actually killed. It's not incredibly successful, but I get the idea. Now back on the runaway. Gonna lose a couple of units. That's so sad. These Marauders are so injured. Oh, you want to be able to kill them. But you know as soon as you blink forward with the limited number of Stalkers, they will get torn to shreds. Trigger just needs more shit. You know, and if he had more shit, then this would actually be a very, very, very dangerous thing that Bjorn was doing. Trigger does manage to find some zealots on the right side. I mean, this is money that he can't give up like this. You know, for free, I should say, because he did manage to find 12 SCVs and a tank. That's maybe worth the zealots, as well as a little bit of breathing room. which might always be worth the Zealots, but it's still a cost that Trigger can't really replace too easily. He has continued to expand, and he barely kept this one alive, right? Through all the tug of war, his 5th base, 6th base has been mining, but still needs more bases. He is losing out in a lot of these engagements. He is down about 8,000 resources, so yeah, needs those extra bases. And is once again bleeding out units. Disruptors on a misrally on the AI and the High Templars and the Archons and everything just died right there. But Zealots once again into the vulnerable 3rd base, finally taking out that last tank, killing 13 more SCVs, even managing perhaps... Yeah, they were better off actually just trying to kill Marauders. But Trigger, I think, had F2'd or something along those lines as he was trying to tackle this particular hit squad. Once again, just not enough shit. The Medivacs have no energy. The Marauders are half health. If Trigger had a decent army, Bjorn would 100% be overextending and getting too chaotic as he's distracted. But Trigger doesn't have enough. Finally, Bjorn able to collect all of his forces together. Somewhat injured, yes, but just overwhelming in number. Over twice the army supply of Trigger. It's too far gone. It's too far gone. I think we're going to get that TVP finals where Clem plays Protoss. And see if Bjorn can get his revenge. Trigger doesn't want to give up. He has made it a kind of scrappy game. I think every time he saw a portion of the army severely injured in that tug of war around here, I think he just was thinking, God, I'm so close to killing so many units. God! Must be frustrating. Good old Propul. Propul with Colossus without the Vikings to shoot them down. Okay, fair enough. But, you know, it's too far gone. Bjorn, you could argue, has not taken full advantage. That he could have won the game faster, better. And maybe was close to overcommitting. Because he only got a 5th base up kind of recently. And that's his main, by the way. So, again, if he wasn't consistently up 30, 40 army supply, there's a lot of opportunities where Trigger could have collapsed in on a portion of the army with a Zealot run by. Bjorn would have been even more desperate trying to get a 5th base with the main orbital, and that might have been scouted, and that's an easy harassing opportunity. At one point, this game was on a knife's edge. It is not. It has not been for the last 2 minutes. But Bjorn might be second guessing himself after not being able to kill him right then and there. Like, wait a minute, the guy was able to rebuild Colossus. Like, hold on, am I not as far ahead as I thought I was? This 3rd base is awfully annoying. Bjorn. A little more prepared for it this time, though, so that's mostly just 600 minerals. Was it 5 Zealots? It's 500 minerals that was wasted right there. Hardly even a distraction. Bjorn was already nearby. Trigger now trying to capitalize on what is hopefully the army completely out of position, but that is totally and completely wrong. It was in primo position, taking the fight eagerly. That's such an injured Terran army. Oh my god. Imagine if DTs came in. That would be funny. Oh my god, he's gonna get so many dead Marauders. Medevac's going down as the Zealots take the last swipes on the Marauders. An army that had been going over, I guess, for a second attack now realized it needs to come back to help. It's the types of things that are keeping Trigger playing this game, man, but overall, I still don't think there's any hope. Even as the Medivacs go down, there's still a lot of bio left over, and Trigger will indeed tap out. You know, that last battle, not the last one, the one just before this one, if it had happened while Bjorn's 5th was under attack by SCVs, it's an orbital, couldn't defend itself, and then Trigger tried to play some type of runaround game, with stalkers. I feel like there actually was some hope at the very end. Oh. Now it is time for Clem versus Björn. A TVP, guys. Am I watching the new season of Wheel of Time? I am, yeah. I saw the 3 episodes Friday. Still as disappointing as ever. You know, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's just not good enough. Like, it really feels, honestly, like... Oh, we gotta go back to America. It feels like a child trying to wear their dad's shoes. Like, you can just tell how much Wheel of Time wants to be Game of Thrones. And I think that's just, one, they're not doing it, and two, I don't think it was quite necessary. This is where my Puritan side is gonna just come right out, right? The amount of sex that they've added to this show, it's so try hard. Whenever I see a show add a lot of violence or a lot of sex, I immediately judge it. Now, in the case of Game of Thrones, for the first, 5 seasons, I judged it and I found it good. It was not wanting. It was like, okay, this is, it's kind of being edgy at times, but, this all works. It's fine. But a lot of other shows, I'll see it and I'll just be like, okay, all right. You're making up for bad dialogue and bad storyboarding and bad lighting, so many things. So and especially when you compare it to Wheel of Time, it's so funny. So Robert Jordan, as the author of Wheel of Time, I know a lot of people are going to be so lost right now, but have you read the books? Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm going to get into. Robert Jordan he's passed, but he was made fun of a lot for being kind of a perv, but in the most PG way that you could be a perv. Like, people called him kind of pervy because he was really weird about, like, the sister wives of Wheel of Time. Basically, they have, like, sister wives. But even then, it wasn't that bad. So basically what happens is that, like, 3 women fall in love with Rand, spoiler alert, and he decides to marry all of them. Now, he does so while consistently beating himself up. But that, like, and there is also, like, he kind of alluded to the fact that maybe there was some lesbianism going on in the White Tower because you had pillow sisters or something like that. I forget what he called them. But Moraine and Swan or whatever they were called. But the actual amount of sex in the Wheel of Time books is so low. It is not a R-rated book. It's got violence, but I'm American. Violence is not R-rated. But you start off with a bunch of teenagers who have never had sex. They never were married. They aged them up for the show. But a lot of the story actually was about their innocence, their actual true innocence, and like the loss of that innocence, as well as how uncomfortable people were around the other gender, which I actually think went too far a lot of time. But it's so funny watching a TV show make Rand and Egwene have like all the sexy times, and then remember that in the book it was far more of like a sibling. Well, it starts off kind of romantic, but they literally are like the children who like everyone in the village sees as getting together eventually, but he's such a good old boy that like the idea of having sex before marriage was just like wrong to him and his dad, and he eventually like grows up and gets really edgy and kind of bad even at one point, and that's when he also starts to like do more of the sexy things. And anyway, there's really not a lot that goes on in the book. If there's ever sex in the books, it's very much alluded to. There's definitely no descriptions. The closest you get is like one of the girls has sex with Rand, and the other girls that are linked can feel it happening, and they blush and they're terribly embarrassed by it. And instead of that happening, what they do now in the TV show is they just straight up make two of them have sex with each other. They just straight up make them bisexual, which is fine, but it's so much added sex and really bad CGI violence that it just makes me roll my eyes. I'm like, you're just trying to hopefully be as cool as Game of Thrones was. When one of the more endearing things about the books, I think, is actually that it was not a lot of sex. Like, it was really endearing to have Rand be so innocent, and why his fall from that innocence is so dramatic, and how he turns back into innocent. Well, not innocent exactly, but he turns back into a good guy at the end. And obviously you can be a good guy and have sex, but it was such a drastic change in him, in his character. And it was actually really nice to have him and Egwene's relationship be of the promised as youngins, but then they realize they don't love each other in that way. It's more like a sibling relationship. And then that is still a relationship strong enough that Rand's biggest fear is losing Egwene. But now it's like, well, because they had so much sex, now they really care about each other. Anyway. I have a lot of thoughts about the Wheel of Time TV show, if you can't tell. But now we got a game. That was just enough of a rant to get back into the games. Alright. This is best of 3. I forgot to see if they were gonna hoodwink me again. Grand final is best of 3, and then another best of 3. Okay, so we're still doing that. So we got ourselves a best of 3 that could be another best of 3. In the top left, playing Protoss, he is Clem. In the bottom right, it is Bjorn. We got a best of 3 that if Clem wins, he straight up wins the tournament. He is in the upper bracket. Bjorn lost to Clem, went down a lower bracket, won against Trigger, now facing him again. Has to win a series to so-called reset the bracket, and then that would be the official best of 3. There's also a lot of other things wrong with the Wheel of Time show, by the way, but that's my biggest complaint right now, actually. I just ate. So what true Brandon Sander's gonna finish the project because he's Mormon? Wow. Wow. That was kind of funny though. Pillow friends is what they're called, yeah. Is Wheel of Time reasonable to try to watch for someone who's never read the books? Okay, so I can't answer that, actually. I can't. Because what I do, I watch it with my mom. My mom enjoys having, like, our weekly, like, you know, TV nights. And I have to explain everything to my mom. But you can't... I don't know if that's because Wheel of Time isn't good at explaining shit, or my mom isn't good at paying attention. Because my mom also didn't realize that Cersei and Jaime were siblings. She missed the whole reason why it was bad that they were having sex. So I can't answer. I haven't been able to sit down and really watch it all by my lonesome and then, you know, not have to pause it and explain everything 1,000 times. I personally would say, though, based off of like what I would expect, I guess, how they actually introduced it versus what was happening in the books, I think it's worse. I think if you don't read the Wheel of Time books trying to watch the series, I think you will be lost quite a bit. They don't do as good of a job as having the entry characters. So I've talked about this before, but, you know, in Star Wars, R2-D2 and C-3PO are kind of like these entry characters that are there to explain a lot of things to the farm boy on Tatooine. So the farm boy doesn't know anything, and you're kind of the farm boy, and then everyone else knows shit, and you're, like, trying to catch up. And it's kind of like the role of the reader, the guy who's entering into the story, the universe that you don't know anything about. And Wheel of Time did that fine in the books, because you just were a bunch of farm boys, and everything was, like, magical and just, like, almost unrealistic. They didn't think Aes Sedai existed and stuff. But in the TV show, they're just like, here you go. Everything. So, I'm thinking it's bad for people who haven't read the books, but... we do have the game really heating up, though, now, so try and avoid bringing Wheel of Time into the series. Phoenix opener from Clem, actually. So they played a best of 3, and in that best of 3, Clem did go for a Stargate once, and he might have intended to do Phoenix, but he had to produce oracles because he was being proxied. So, hard to say, but as... for all intents and purposes, right, this is the first time we're seeing Clem bring out this Phoenix build. He's also doing it with a Twilight Council, so he's kind of bringing out a build that's not as popular as it once was. I've kind of missed it. I was a little worried for a second. But yeah, I've kind of missed it. Phoenix Charge. That's going to give Clem control of the game for a while, as the Terran player just has to respect this. If you underestimate Phoenix Charge, you don't escape Phoenix Charge. So that's the biggest concern. We've seen Terrans push against it, and it can work. It just, if you misjudge it, you die. Oh! What? Wait, what? Wait, what? He went 3 Phoenix and still went Blink? Okay, never mind. Generally, if you go for Phoenix at all, but certainly more than 1 Phoenix, and you go for Twilight Council, yeah, I immediately go over into Charge Phoenix. But I am wrong. It is Blink. It will be Phoenix Colossus. I mean, it's hard to even say it's Phoenix anything, you know? Like, this is a very light committal of the Phoenix. Almost mind gaming? Almost like it's a little mind gaming, maybe? Maybe? Beyond might be thinking it's Charge, and that's why Clem changed his mind. Because if it is Charge, again, what I was talking about, like, the Terran has to be really careful about pushing out. But seeing as it's still over and over and over again, only 3 Phoenix, not 5, not more than that. He might be picking up on Clem's alternative composition. He's not going Phoenix Colossus either, though. Like, he actually just went 3 Phoenix into Blink Charge. Okay. Alright, that's how he's doing it. Well, Blink is done. Charge is on the way, though, so if Bjorn is going to commit to a push, Clem is going to be without his strongest upgrade. Blink is a strong upgrade, but it's also more... It's more about cleverness than it is about just punching your opponent in the face. Charge is punching your opponent in the face. So if Charge isn't done, these zealots that are being warped in are going to feel awfully stupid. And as you can see, the stalkers have already tucked tail and ran because they do get outnumbered. Now all we need is about 25 more seconds, which might be given just because of Bjorn's hesitation. Having the tank already sieged up there is not ideal, but it is at least injured. Charge is still not done. 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 Oh my god, it feels like it's taking forever. The zealots walk slowly into their deaths. Man, imagine if Charge was done for that, because he actually won the fight. Imagine if Charge was done. That would have been no contest. He's going to absolutely win the fight, and while it's not Phoenix Charge chasing everything down, it is Stalkers, who are almost as mobile. And Clem... Whoops, they already used Blink. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Would have minds do collect 2 Stalkers. Very much necessary for Bjorn, though. He is on the run. He's on a very low supply count. I guess they both were, though, and Clem did not have a Warp Prism, so it's not like he could capitalize on this momentum. But now Charge is done, and now it should look a lot better. Colossus are on the way, and he took basically no damage at the 3rd. I see the shields are gone, but no damage. And the Observer is still up and running. Okay, finally does what he did in the last game, but there's a 2nd Observer. Finally, Clem's insistence on putting more than 1 Observer on Beyond's side of the map actually works, rather than just losing him 4 observers over the game. Oh my god. Oh! Oh, no. Now you just want to leave the game. No. You know, here you were like, how this guy doesn't have charge. An idiot. Oh, wait, no, he kind of still won the fight. All right, that was my bad. But then you lose a medevac going for a drop. That's when you're just like, well, now I feel fucking stupid. Now you really emphasize it. And then you just want to leave the game. But Bjorn cannot leave the game. It's not in his nature. There's still a chance. But it is a bad chance. It is... Oof. This game is all types of topsy-turvy. But now, very, very solidly in Clem's favor. 30 supply advantage, Colossus advantage, no Vikings on the field. Is maybe going to have an upgrade advantage as well if he chronos the +2. Not the most important thing right now, though. Beyond going for a drop in the main base. Real Hail Mary tactics right now. He knows that he won't win a direct fight. So don't take one. And try and buy a lot of time by going for drops, which, if he escapes with a drop, is all fair game. He will not escape with the drops, though. Only one escapes. Meanwhile, the army that was hoping to find a 4th base gotten too soon finds nothing except death and misery. The Zealots jump on top of it. The Colossus, well, eventually will impact the battle as well. And Bjorn has lost so much supply. GG's. I was really worried about that charge timing. I really thought that was going to make that battle look so much worse. It wasn't too bad, actually. Hey, Palo. Apollo's a good kitty. I would say I don't have any bad cats, but I'm not sure that's Wicket can be a little bit of a terror. She woke me up this morning by trying to climb my drapes. So Wheel Time should have been animated. Robert Jordan is into bosoms and spanking, but he wasn't in your face about it. YouTube chat coming in hot. Let's get your Wind and Truth rant. Oh, yeah, you rant about Stormlight Archives now. What a fall from grace in my eyes, that book series, but that's for another rant, another time. We're back on Kills Switch, or Kills Witch, depending on how you want to read it. In the bottom left, it is Clem. Top right, it is Beyond. Have I tried Beyond All Reason? I haven't. I feel like people ask me, but I'm not really interested in all these new types of RTS that people try to convince me are real-time strategy. I don't actually remember what Beyond All Reason looks like. Is that the one that just like has... It's like really zoomed out and there's like a billion things going on. Mechabellum is also zoomed out, but Mechabellum has... It's more like a direct strike where there's like two forces fighting each other. But like Beyond All Reason, which is like everything everywhere. Yeah. No, I'm not very interested in those types of games. People ask me about Mechabellum as well, because some StarCraft people are getting into it. And I don't know about Beyond All Reason. That could actually be a real-time strategy game, but yeah, I've ranted about the real-time strategy as a genre thing before. In truth, it is a genre that would actually describe many a video game, but there is an expectation that goes beyond just the words real-time strategy that many of these games do not fit. And thus, I struggle to call things like Battle Aces RTS. And Mechabellum is like that too, because Mechabellum is it's like an auto battler, right? I think it's actually what they call it, but some people call it an RTS. And I'm just like grumpy in the corner. I'm like, no. Yeah, those aren't really the games that I like too much. Beyond did Engineering Bay block in the last Kill Switch game they played. Beyond did not follow up. He's still not really following with any particularly aggressive. But what was really interesting for Clem, actually nothing aggressive. He goes for a command center after barracks. But what was interesting is that Clem seemed to have a good idea as to how to respond to the Engineering Bay block on what I think is the freshest map. It's the newest one, right? And it seems not to have been a fluke. He does it yet again. He gets Engineering Bay blocked in the natural and says, okay, fine, it takes the third, this third. Because I feel like there is still a case for taking this one, but I really can't. I'm not going to be the one that determines this, okay? I'm a follower and not a leader. And Clem says, take this as your natural. Okay. Very interesting. Beyond might be feeling a little bit of desperation. We got ourselves, first of all, an Engineering Bay block into a 1-Rax command center. Now, that's actually not what you do after Engineering Bay block 9 times out of 10. Most of the time, it's a factory expand at least. And then maybe some people do like a 1-1-1 cheese. But it's a factory expand, almost always. So that's already different. Now, the Adept, having shaded completely, does manage to see the command center. So that's a bit of a bummer for Beyond, who couldn't stop the shade from happening. But then, beyond that expectation, kind of twisted, Beyond goes for a 3cc hidden third base. I think in a very ideal world, Clem does not scout even this command center. Thinks most importantly about the follow-up and how he has to defend it. And doesn't scout the command center, doesn't scout obviously the hidden command center. And then Beyond has this huge boon that he got away with without any repercussions. It's a little off now because Clem did take the chance of sending his Adept out to see what his opponent was doing. Because if it was a factory follow-up to the Engineering Bay block, there would be units out in the field that could have killed that Adept. So, you know, I would say, actually, Beyond was very much hoping that would not have scouted the command center. But say, Livy, it still doesn't know about the third CC. It doesn't know about it being hidden, already done. It doesn't know about it in general. If Clem had opened up with a Stargate of any sort, Oracle or Phoenix, he probably would have gotten a scout that would have made him then look for a hidden base. He would have seen 3 barracks, no factory. This is, you know, pretty late, even though a 3 barracks opener is a thing off of 2 bases. This is delayed even further because of a third CC. And so a Phoenix would have gotten in here and been like, well, where the hell is the third CC? Like, what's going on here? Instead, the Twilight Council opener, you don't get that fast, direct scout. Not until you get the Robo and the Observer. So I don't think he meant to do that, but anyways, I was trying to think of what Clem could be figuring out right now. And I think it's not much. Like, right now, there is an awful lack of units. Beyond only showed the 6 or whatever Marines that are on the front there. He hid the rest of the bio. That is sus for any reason. Oh, the Observer finally sees everything, by the way. That would be sus for any reason. But yeah, you don't know what happens behind it. The Observer comes in, says, hey, it's a 3-Rax. But a 3-Rax without a factory, but then it didn't get close enough to see if there was a factory or not. For all he knows, a starport is sending medevacs over right now. No medevacs needed, apparently. Shield battery number 2 actually takes some shots, and the backup shield battery is going to be very, 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 very helpful. The probes were pulled into this. It was a bit of a desperate moment. As soon as Clem saw the amount of bio, he tried to get as best of a response as possible. But there's only so much he could really do to stop the bio from trying to blitz in. Its whole goal was to blitz. It was going to blitz almost no matter what. And then it was a question of how much you lose in that blitz. 10 probes and a handful of stalkers isn't too bad. 5 stalkers? It's pretty painful, actually. Obviously, it would have been much better if that first shield battery had finished and then helped Stalkers as they took the high ground advantage, even for a second. But that's not what happened. Overall, though, well, I gotta remember this is 3cc. All right, so if this was an actual 2 base 3 racks, I would just be like, but it's a 3cc one, so. But this observer now sees. It's like, why is your starport so late? Where is the starport? This is the starport. That is such a late starport. Like, there's no way that Clem doesn't know about the 3rd CC, right? And, you know, the observer could actually literally see the 3rd is not in the main. Or the natural, I guess. I guess it could have fit back there? Huh. That'd actually be some funny play if you tried to hide a 3rd CC back there. I really feel like all signs point to, yeah, okay. The stalker was sent around looking for the base. There it is. Clem was like, this is too off. What's going on? Hidden base somewhere. And it is going to be right in that corner. Now, Bjorn could have gone for the other corner, but this might be the place he chose because he knew he would eventually be scouted. So it was a hidden base for sure, but it's a hidden base that is in line with how you would take your bases on this map anyway. So you can still kind of protect it once it's discovered. Kind of protect it. It's not the most direct path though, so your reinforcements are going through here and your protection is over here. Yeah, you're gonna need to actually be mindful of how to protect that. Storm is the tech choice, by the way, of Clem. And that warp prism suspiciously hanging around with the gateway units. Pretty much tells Bjorn what he needs to know. Pretty good storms. Not the most amazing, mind you. One more storm. And that's going to be it, actually. And that is a lot of armies still left over. That's the problem with Storm. They can do a lot of damage, but as far as actually killing the Terran units, that's a different story. Something else has to kill them. And if you don't kill them, they will heal up again. And then it's another battle of healed bio versus how many storms you have left. I'm not sure I like that much at all, actually. I think Clem overestimated the damage that was actually being done and maybe should have retreated immediately after the first storm landed. But that's total hindsight 2020. There's no way you think you could tell that in the midst of battle. Because that also can happen is that the Terran army spreads out to mitigate the splash damage and it is injured, but then because it's also spread out, it doesn't micro as well. So the zealots get more, you know, small surrounds and units kind of get uninvolved with the battle. And so, like, I can see how it would work, but the dust clears and Bjorn is ahead 30 army supply. He's also going to be ahead an upgrade as both of them look at +2 to finish. One armor is already done for Bjorn. Clem doesn't want to really give up on the aggression, but he kind of has to. Now, the good news is for Clem is that his aggression has been... It's been aggressive. It's been on Bjorn's side of the map for the last couple of minutes, so that means that he's been able to macro. He's got 4 bases saturated, a 5th base is on the way, and he still has this choke, I guess, but that just really turned around on him, and never mind. That wasn't it. And the amount of things that were it, that was not it. I don't know how it looks so even when there's a 50 supply difference, but the bio was maybe misrallied or dealing with a warp prism. Is that where the warp prism went? That's exactly what it was. Yep, there you go. Warp prism went to the main to try and get a distraction. That's why Clem moved in like that, but it just went terribly on both ends. Ow. Down 40 supply here. Bjorn collecting his army to go for the throat, go for the end of the game. Clem has another chance to live, though. It's not quite game over 100%. Bjorn, I think he's going to keep the lead. But this game's going to go on for a little while longer. Clem just has a very strong economy backing him. 80 probes now on 50 bases. 5 bases. Upgrades pretty even, although favoring Bjorn. Colossus now out with the lack of Vikings from Bjorn. These are the things that are giving Clem's chances to stay in the game. But Bjorn is not that far behind on the economy, guys. He actually has 5 bases of his own. And a Protoss, in this day and age, basically like a Zerg, wants to be up at least 1 base. And Bjorn still has the armor supply lead, which is going to come at Clem probably when it's maxed. But then it'll still be 200 supply versus 170. I like that Clem's not totally giving up on the High Templars. Is that the last one, though? That is the last one. I would like another High Templar, because so many Terrans, even at this skill, they throw all their EMPs down and they're like, I'm good, right? Like, look, all the ghosts go on the front lines. 2 of them are still left, though, and unfortunately that is going to be good enough to get both EMPs on top of the High Templar. No Storm for you. And what a demolishing of that Protoss force. Easy peasy. Didn't even have to wait till he was maxed out. Clem's not going to 2-0 here. He will be forced into a 3rd game. Bjorn, at the end of the day, successfully did a 3cc hidden base build. If he hadn't had a 3rd CC the entire time, he's blitz into the natural that killed a decent amount, but, you know, maybe not enough. It was only 2 bases. It would have been problematic for him. Clem's insistence on engaging also would have been far more problematic to a 2-base Terran. It would have looked a lot closer to the previous games between these two, where Bjorn would not be able to replenish his forces fast enough. Clem's got to respect that. He's going to be like, ah, you got me. Tied up 1-1 in this best of 3. Bottom left it is Clem. Top right it is Bjorn. So again, if Clem wins this, he wins the entire tournament. If Bjorn wins this, there is another best of 3 to play. So that's, you know, Bjorn's goal, obviously. Bjorn did a little cheeky last game. Macro cheese, some people would call it. Relies heavily on being unscouted. Which I would say cheese, that's a qualifier of cheese, yeah. And it wasn't. It took a very long time for it to be scouted. It was a gamble, though. If Clem had gone for some type of faster scout build, whatever he did to get a faster scout, saw a suspicious lack of stuff, then he would have known about the 3rd CC. He would have been able to deny it. Almost certainly. But Bjorn chose a good build for the situation. He kind of set up an expectation from the Protoss too, with the Engineering Bay block to be a little more on the defense. Not so much thinking and worrying about them out-macroing you, but rather worrying about what they're going to attack with post-Engineering Bay block. Because that is, again, 9 times out of 10, it's going to follow up with a factory. Whether it's Hellions, or 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion, or just a Widowmine drop, which is what Bjorn has been doing, is you don't know, but something aggressive. And instead Bjorn went for the macro. But you can only get away with that once. As soon as you start to show anything at all suspicious or a little off, like, you know, for instance, hey, Engineer Bay blocked me, why is he not following up with anything? That's gonna make Clem think faster about the 3rd CC potential. I suppose the last game where he wasn't really thinking about it until he got that observer in the main base. It is, however, once again, Bjorn's Engineering Bay block into Command Center, no factory, so he's bringing this into the fold. And so Clem might be thinking, as the seconds tick by, you know, okay, where's the Reaper, where's the Hellions, where's the Widowmine drop? And then as that time goes by, he might go, okay, well, he wouldn't dare try and hide a 3rd CC again. But by then, he'll also have an observer. As I think he's going into the... Wait a minute. Yeah, Twilight Council. He did have to pull probes. He did not want to deal with the third as his natural yet again. And if you don't want to deal with that, then you send a probe down to the natural to see if there's an engineering bay block. If there is, you pull probes. And that's what happened. So the good news is you don't have to worry about the long mining initially. You don't have to worry about the long distance, the probes rallying. The bad news is you do get a little blip in your income when you pull the probes. It is Twilight Council, though, as he finally scrounges up the cash. And the rowboat does come down, but again, the knowledge of what Bjorn is following this all up with is still hidden. 2 adepts don't want to shade. It was a little scary. And allowed the shade as they ran backward. Yeah, so Clem plays Protoss versus Terran for now about 6 months. He was showing it, I think, a little before EWC, but he wasn't really committing to it. Oh! Oh! We're gonna take a page out of the little Trigger book, huh? Yeah. Trigger did try this versus Clem, and that did not go well. But it is actually impossible for the game to look similar to that Clem Trigger series because Bjorn is not going for a drop. He's going for 3 racks. So this is 2cc 3 racks. Anyway. This has a vulnerability against Dark Shrine. Now, a lot of Terrans, well, it's not a very popular build right now, but sometimes if a Terran 3 raxes, they will get a, let's say, cautionary engineering bay and missile turret. Because they know the one thing that they really don't want to be handling is a Dark Shrine. They have no scouting from a Widowmine drop. If you went 1-1-1 Widowmine drop, you would have some form of scouting to give you a hint. Don't have that. So you have no idea what your opponent is doing. You obviously don't have access to a Raven even close to it. So another reason why Dark Templar are particularly scary. But it looks like the engineering bay is not going to be down fast enough. However, a scan is, and the DT actually probably shouldn't have taken the opportunity to swipe right there. It's always hard to say, though. But a scan is available, and the DT might have been wanting those kills to be SCVs rather than Marines. This DT probably doesn't want to... Really? Okay. Because there is a second scan on the way, and it's just committed itself farther away from the War Prism. Gotta say, amongst the DT rushes I've seen, this is one of the worst ones. Well, no. 7 SCVs ain't bad. Well, I'm exaggerating. It was not a great start for the first 2 DTs, but overall, this is still a lot of chaos. This still can benefit Clem. Now he's got to worry about being punched in the face. He's been dancing around, doing some like capoeira type shit around his opponent, and now it is Bjorn's turn to just literally punch him in the face. And that's something that Clem is prepared for. An Immortal is on the way. No, it's misrallied. Ooh, it's very, very close. Second pylon and 2 shield batteries. He doesn't have a lot of units, but at least they'll have some health. 1 shield battery down, 2nd shield battery down, hardly bought any time. But remember that Bjorn is blitzing. He doesn't really get better as time goes on. DT is still causing some problems, and that is that. Bjorn choosing the 3 racks off of 2 bases, making himself more vulnerable to the Dark Shrine. And what does Clem choose to do? A Dark Shrine. The first DTs, 2 DTs could have been better, arguably, but overall, the strategies really favored Clem. And a good defense is most important. Didn't die to the punch in the face. GG's. Clem wins the overall tournament with this best of 3. And Bjorn will have to try again next week. That's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm going to leave you with my very cute kitty. And thanks for the resubs today, as well as the donation from Mr. Chas. Might do this again next Monday. But I'll be back tomorrow as far as the stream goes in the evening. But fair warning, it probably won't be StarCraft. Hope you all have a good Monday, whatever's left of it. And happy St. Patrick's Day. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.